Hi guys, welcome back to another exciting video, so sit back, relax, and let's get started. It's as it should be. A young woman watches the blonde, aggressive boy be tied up on the podium, her light blue eyes narrow in disgust. I've always skipped this part, they could have done something else, something better. She sighs before turning off the TV. Don't they know that the league are watching this? They're getting the bad impression just like everyone else. She stands from her couch and takes out her phone. She clicks on a contact and puts the phone to her ear just as the person on the other side answers. Zomi, what's up? Rumi asks. Hey, has the Hero Commission updated you on that building they were making? I was just about to tell you that they were finished. A smile rises to her face. Really? Are you serious? Yeah, get ready because I'm coming to pick you up just so I don't have to sign shit. Alright then, see you soon. Bye Nozomi. Nozomi rushes down the hall to her bedroom. She quickly removes what she has on to put on something more formal as she changes. She looks at a poster she had on a wall of the number 2 hero, Endeavor. Don't look at me, she snarks as she finishes buttoning up her shirt. Her eyes linger on the poster for a second. Her heart aches for him, but she wasn't going to beg for him to fall for her, at least not when he's like this. Maybe I'll impress him enough that he'll join my agency. Nah, he probably won't even bother. She's broken out of her thoughts when someone enters the room. Hey, Ru says to get ready. Her other best friend, Akari, says. Nozomi snickers as she brushes her silver hair. I know, I just called her. Akari adjusts her glasses as her black eyes narrow. Hey, she starts tentatively. That stuff that happened in the sports festival, did it go exactly as you dreamed? Nozomi sets down her brush as her lips thin. Yeah, winners, teams, chains, and all. Akari takes the brush to smooth out her black hair. Meanwhile, Nozomi stares at herself in the mirror intensely. What's on your mind? Akari asks. Are you worried that they won't accept you? She looks at her friend's reflection and nods slowly. Relax, Nozomi, you've done a lot of impressive stuff over the years. Yeah, but you forget that I'm quirkless and a civilian. Honestly, I seriously doubt you're quirkless because of these dreams you've got. For the last time, my x-rays show that I have 2 joints in my pinky toe. Nozomi laughs exasperatedly. I know. Akari laughs too before she sets down her brush. But still, it might work in your favor if you tell them about those dreams. Nozomi shakes her head at Akari, who just grins. They then hear a car honking outside. Akari smiles and hugs Nozomi tightly. Must be Ru, good luck. Nozomi smiles back before grabbing a folder on her bed and walking out of the room. She makes her way outside. Approaching a small but sleek white car, she gets in and quickly puts on her seatbelt as the car immediately moves down the road. Nozomi grins at the driver. How do you think they'll react when you tell them that you don't want the agency in the first place? Rumi grins back before saying, they're going to be upset. I just know it. Still, they already built the place in the way that you've wanted, so it'd be a waste for them to reject you and tear it down. Right again. Thank you for holding off on signing until the building was completed. Anytime, Rumi smiles. After a few minutes, Rumi parks the car on the side. The two step out in front of the Hero Public Safety Commission building. Making Nozomi's stomach flutter from nerves, Rumi walks over and links her arm with Nozomi's. Leave me with the kiss-ass attitude since I know it'll make you vomit to do so, Rumi says. Nozomi laughs, which eases her nerves slightly. It doesn't stop her from glaring at the building before walking in with Rumi, who forces a smile to the staff members inside. Nozomi remembers the day that Lady Nagant was arrested. She had immediately told Rumi of the real reason why under the guise of a dream, thus making Rumi a lot more wary of the HPSC since then. Mirko, welcome. An agent approaches with a smile that made Nozomi's head reel with disgust. Your friend can wait here while. She's coming with me. Rumi insists. I need her by my side. The agent eyes Nozomi, who just shrugs. All right then, the agent concedes. He leads the two into an office, gesturing for them to sit down. As we've discussed earlier, Ms. Maruko, the building is already finished, he says while sitting behind the desk. He sets down a contract before offering a pen to Rumi and saying, all we need is your signature. I'm not signing. The agent chuckles as if she was joking. His amusement fades at Rumi's serious expression. She's going to sign, in fact. This hero agency is going to hers, Rumi explains. The agent looks at her before looking at Nozomi, who is smiling. I beg your pardon, he says, looking at the two back and forth before settling on Nozomi. Who are you? Nozomi Fujiki. But you're not a professional hero from the looks of it. Far from it. Rumi glares at the agent. What do you mean from that? Maruko, with all due respect, we can't just give a hero agency to a civilian. Oh yes, you can, Rumi insists before nudging Nozomi with her elbow. Nozomi places the folder onto the desk with her smile growing. The agent opens it. Seeing a resume with some photographs and papers, he takes a moment to read the resume before looking up at Nozomi. It says here that you've graduated from high school at 14 before going to Waste University, where you got a master's degree in business, a bachelor's in engineering, and another bachelor's in psychology. I sound like a Mary Sue. Yep, all true. Nozomi says you can make a few phone calls to confirm that those copies of my degrees and photographs of the occasions are legit. She's quite famous back in our hometown. Rumi brags while putting her arm around Nozomi. She also gave me great advice while I was in school, making me the top of the class by the time I graduated. The agent sighs as he closes the folder. Maruko, with all due respect. Rumi slams her hand down on the desk and yells, I don't understand. My friend here has the skills needed to run the agency and train students. She may not be a pro hero, but she might as well be a hero in a different manner. Easy, Nozomi says while gently pulling Rumi away. One moment. The agent forces a smile before picking up his phone and pressing a few buttons. Madam, it's about Maruko. She doesn't want the agency instead. She wants her quirkless friend to own the agency, he stammers. I know, that's what I told them, but Ms. Fujiki gave me her resume, and it's very impressive. What? You already know about her. Nozomi's eyes widen slightly at this before she glances at Rumi, who winks. I see. Okay, thank you, madam. The agent sighs and sets the phone down. He then offers the pen to Nozomi. The president allows it. Nozomi felt as if she was moving in slow motion as she takes the pen and writes down her name on the dotted line. Her heart was beating in her head as the agent puts the paper into her folder before sliding it back to her. The building is yours. Nozomi slowly nods as she says, thank you. She shakes hands with the agent before she and Rumi walk out the room. As soon as they were out of the building and in the car, Rumi lets out a triumphant yell. We're getting coffee to celebrate because hell fucking yeah. How the hell did the CEO heard of me? Nozomi looks at Rumi in bewilderment. Rumi smirks as she starts the car. I took your advice in befriending the bird. It took a while before I started to brag about how cool you were and how much you wanted a hero agency. I'm guessing he gave good words to Madam President. Nozomi laughs slightly. Seriously. Thank you so much. I'll text Akari about the good news. Rumi faces the road while Nozomi sends a message to Akari. She puts her phone back in her pocket before looking out the window as a proud smile rises to her face. Just as I expected. I can always count on Rumi to brag. This is going better than I expected. The two stop in front of a coffee shop just as Akari sends many excited texts. It took them a while to get their celebratory coffee due to fans surrounding Rumi. As soon as they got their coffee, Rumi drags Nozomi away from the coffee shop with a sigh. Let's just walk around for a bit, okay? To let out the excitement and get some exercise from the good news and all, Rumi says as the two walk side by side down a sidewalk. Nozomi takes a sip of her coffee, which tasted sweeter than usual, and sighs. Good idea. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. Since she laughs joyfully, I mean, my dream is coming true. Rumi's expression becomes serious at this. Speaking of dreams, I saw the sports festival, and, unfortunately, you were right about the muzzling. Nozomi frowns before taking a large sip of her coffee. So what are you hoping to do? Call out the staff for being idiots? Someday, though, I should first have some of the students from want to intern for me. You know they're not going to let you do that without their license, right? I do. So either you have to make Hawks kiss ass or Nozomi pauses to take a sip from her coffee. We find a loophole for me to train them without them having to take the test first. I know you'll be able to allow it. We just have to discuss it with the HPSC later just so you won't get arrested. Nozomi takes another sip of coffee as her mind races. Will the kids like me? God, it's so weird to say that. I'm so used to them being just a few years younger than me that I have to face the fact that they're a decade younger now. I should really make a good impression on Midoriya first. Will he believe that I have a past life? Or do I have to use the dream excuse? Wait, I'm stupid. I do have a way to get him on my side. Boy, Rumi nudges Nozomi, causing her to choke on her coffee. Oh, what? We should start walking back since a crowd is forming. What for? Rumi points to a crowd, surrounding what looks to be a tall flame. Oh my gosh, it's Zomi, I swear. Nozomi smiles widely at Rumi while jumping slightly. It's Endeavor, Ru. You know how big of a fan I am. I just want to look at him. Rumi groans at this before grabbing Nozomi's wrist and leading her through the crowd. Nozomi, meanwhile, had a wide, stupid smile on her face. Yeah, I'm very aware that he's still an asshole at this time. But damn it, I'm a simp for that man, his mantid is, and his repentance arc Sumi. Rumi's presence is able to part the crowd for them to get closer to Endeavor. Her eyes glimmer in amazement and her cheeks become pink at the sight of him. Endeavor was talking to a reporter, probably about how his youngest son should have won first place in the sports festival, but she was too amazed the way the flames danced around his face, his eyes full of power, his muscles in his hero suit. He's so pretty, she mumbles. Can his epiphany come any faster so that I can think about marrying him without feeling guilt? Universe. And we're done, let's go, Rumi says dismissively, breaking Nozomi out of her thoughts, becoming some down bad shit. Maruko. A reporter points her out. A couple of people in the crowd look at the duo, making Rumi look at Nozomi in a how dare you manner while Nozomi just gives a sheepish grin. Miss Maruko. A reporter holds out her microphone. Can you answer a few questions for us? Nope, sorry, gotta go. Nozomi notices Endeavor looking over at the commotion just as Rumi starts to drag her away. Nozomi puts her coffee in her other hand before using the free one to wave at him, all while having a bright smile. She then quickly turns away to follow Rumi. Nozomi, you could have been a simp for the bird or something. Rumi chastises. I mean, I kind of am. But I can't help but like Endeavor, Nozomi replies knowingly, already excited to witness the day his epiphany happens. I hope I made a good first impression. Get your head out of the clouds and in the car, lover girl. You've got an agency to go to. They get into the car and, as Rumi starts it, Nozomi's mind was already filled with the ideas she's had ever since she realized what world she was in. Get your head in the zone. Nozomi, you have to help them. That's been the plan from the start. Help everyone that needs it, even without a quirk. You can do as much as you can to be a hero with what you know. They're going to be grateful that the universe gave a fan the chance to save them all. A knowing smile rises to her face. My Hero Academia, time to meet your savior. Her smile then promptly fades into disgust. Savior? Who the fuck am I? Light Yagami. You good? Rumi asks. After mentally facepalming, Nozomi nods and leans back against her seat. Yeah, right. I'll be lucky if I even make a small change. The duo would eventually arrive at the recently finished 7-story building that was now her hero agency. It was simple and was full of windows. In front of it was the agent from before and Akari, who were just standing awkwardly by one another. As soon as they see Nozomi and Rumi, smiles rise to their faces, though one was more warm. Congratulations, Akari says as she hugs Nozomi, who hugs back. I knew you could get it. Congratulations indeed. The agent agrees with a professional smile that Nozomi almost gags at. Are you ready for the tour? Yeah, go ahead, Rumi says. He leads them in, where Nozomi's eyes wander to scrutinize every detail. The walls were painted light red and the foyer was lined with chairs. She notices the agent looking at her and Rumi. Did you ask Maruko to have the building made exactly as you've wanted, Miss Fujiki? Before Nozomi could answer, Rumi answers for her. Of course she did. I don't want an agency and never will get one. Meanwhile, she's really wanted an agency ever since she was a kid. She even drew up a whole flooring plan when she was 7. Besides, I think she's got the training capabilities to give good tips to students, right? Of course, but not before they get there. Provisional hero licenses. I'm aware. Nozomi interrupts. The card that states that the students are allowed to use their quirk in public without getting in trouble, especially when saving the day. Pray tell, do they need their licenses if they're using their quirks in a simulation? The agent raises an eyebrow at this. Pardon? Like, this is my property, so I give the allowance of training the students here. Furthermore, if it's in a simulation, it'll be in a controlled environment where no passerby can get hurt. If my floor plan was followed correctly, I would already have medical staff on the 5th floor, right above the training floor, where there is an empty space ready for a simulation area to be built in. Ms. Fujiki, are you suggesting allowing students to intern in your agency without a license? That is exactly what I'm saying. Rumi glares at the agent while crossing her arms in an attempt of intimidation. The agent lets out an exasperated sigh before taking out his phone and walking out of the room. Oh, Akari, guess what? Nozomi turns to her friend. What? I waved at Endeavor. Akari tries to smile at this before giving her the side eye. Seriously, what do you even see in him? I mean, he noticed her, Rumi says dismissively, but like she said, what do you see in him? I mean, All Might and Hux are right there. They would understand if they saw what I saw. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to excuse the shit he did to his family, but I am a fan of his repentance arc. That's right. It's not a redemption arc. It's a damn repentance arc. But anyways, ever since I could regain my ability to walk, the first thing I did was run away from my parents and grab a plush toy of him. To be fair, I have sewn his scar onto that plush because of how much I love his post-epiphany persona. When my parents and these two ask about it, I just tell them that I think he looks cool with a scar, which he does. But I can't help but still enjoy looking at him. I'm delusional and I need help, especially with the fact that he's a married man. Akari points out it's just fantasies of yours, but if he ever gets involved in the agency, don't be weird, okay? For real. I mean, she wanted to get near him just to look at him, even though just yesterday I was talking about how much he annoys me. For context, as soon as Rumi became a hero, I asked her to work with Endeavor on a mission or something just so I could have a glimpse at how he acts. Needless to say, Rumi has held a grudge against Endeavor since then because they kept butting heads. I don't even know for certain if it went exactly as how Rumi described it. I mean, yeah, he's a piece of shit, but Rumi has butted heads with Bakugo in canon. Maybe I'll ask him about after he has his epiphany later. Nozomi reassures. Relax, I'm not going to act like an absolute dumbass if he ever becomes part of the agency. You want to see how she looked when she waved? Rumi cuts her off. Rumi smiles widely while having a look of awe as she proceeds to wave enthusiastically at the wall, which makes Akari laugh and Nozomi horrify. I waved like that. I thought I looked magical or something. Magical? My ass, you looked like a typical fangirl. Akari calms herself before patting Nozomi's back. Relax. Baby, he'll forget all about that once you start training his son. Yeah, I'll be fine. I can't believe I've embarrassed myself the first time he ever saw me, Nozomi says in a panic. Rumi shakes her head and ruffles Nozomi's hair as she reassures. Don't worry, you didn't look exactly as dumb as I pretended. Nozomi smiles at this. Feeling slight relief, they watch the agent walk back into the room with a look of slight defeat under his professional smile. Well, Madam President told me that she'll sign a statement saying that you're allowed to intern students without their license. However, she warns that if any of the students were to get critically hurt, you will be liable. I'm good with that. He then sighs again before explaining. Well, I should inform you that it will take around 2-3 days, maybe more, to gather enough employees to work here in that time. We'll also set up the simulation area. Is that all right with you? It's perfect, Nozomi says before she puts her arm around Akari. If it's not too much of a bother, I would like my buddy here, Akari Watanabe, to be my secretary. Akari's eyes widen before stammering out, F for real. Of course. Why else did I ask for them to put a bedroom on the top floor? I want you to not only be my secretary, I also want you to live here to save on gas money. And the other bedroom, Akari points out. My room, we can still go back home for whatever, but it'd be a nice place for us to rest after a long day at work, plus there's a bakery nearby. So Akari hugs Nozomi tightly while squealing as the two hug. Rumi glares at the agent to stop him from speaking before hugging her friends. The agent walks out of the building, giving the trio some privacy. I didn't think you would actually say it, Akari murmurs. You've always wanted this agency, and now you've got it. You told me when we were kids that you want me by your side constantly, and now you. Nozomi and Rumi pull away as Akari wipes away a tear. Sorry, don't be. Rumi states you're important to us even if you haven't done anything major or impressive. Nozomi nudges Rumi with her elbow. Just don't give a shit about what your mom says, okay? You're doing good even if not a lot of people pay attention to it. Akari adjusts her glasses before smiling slightly. Thanks, I'm glad I have you too. The three hug each other again. Akari notices that the agent was gone before pulling away. 2-3 days, maybe more, Akari mutters. Is that good enough? Rumi questions. According to your dreams at least. Yeah, it's good the kids get 2 days of rest after the sports festival before their journey continues, Nozomi states as she looks around the foyer. Rumi and Akari glance at each other. Nozomi looks back at them, already expecting what they'll ask. Rumi starts. Nozomi, why? Again, I don't know. Nozomi cuts her off. I don't know why I'm not there in the dreams. It's still scary, isn't it? Akari wonders. The world is mostly the same except you don't exist. Ugh, I don't want to think about that. I want to think about celebrating. How about we all have dinner together? My treat, Rumi offers. Yeah, that sounds nice. I should also figure out what I should pack, Akari mutters. Rumi flicks Akari's forehead with a snicker. The two laugh before walking out of the building while Nozomi stares at the two. My presence has already caused a change. The only reason why Akari is friends with Rumi is because I pointed her out and asked her to play when we were 6, of course. I told them that Akari and Rumi were still friends regardless of my lack of presence in the so-called dreams because I didn't want to hurt Akari's feelings. For the bright side, even if this whole plan doesn't work and burns in a horrible fire, Rumi gets to have two best friends by her side. Nozomi smiles as she follows them. I'm just lucky to be born as her neighbor. It would take only 3 days for the HPSC to find employees that would work in Nozomi's agency during that time. She's made a few visits to the companies who make hero suits. Her knowledge in engineering and the time spent in her past life looking at costume redesigns were useful in making some aspect of her dream come true. Gotta love the fact that I have to go Edna mode for these kids because the ones in charge are bad at their jobs. Nozomi sews through a red fabric in her hand with a goofy smile on her face as she sits on her bed. Should I act like Edna to the kids? This is a hobo suit. Darling, you can't be seen in it. I won't allow it. Her thoughts are broken by Akari tapping her shoulder. Nozomi, there's already news stories about you and your agency. Wait, already? Akari leads Nozomi out of her room to the living room, where the TV was already on. A reporter standing in front of her agency. In today's story, the Hero Association has announced the completion of a new hero agency. However, in a shocking twist, the agency isn't given to a hero but rather a hero's friend. Pro-hero Maruko was offered a hero agency, and she was ready to accept it, but according to the Hero Public Safety Commission, once the building was finished, the bunny hero gave it to her dear friend, Nozomi Fujiki. The TV shows a picture of Nozomi and Rumi, taken directly from Rumi's social media. Nozomi could tell that Akari was upset because they cropped her out. Who is this Nozomi, you may ask? She's an interesting lady to be sure, despite being quirkless. She's a very intelligent one. On her resume, she graduated from high school at 14 before going to Waste University and achieved 2 bachelor's and 1 master's at 25. Maruko has claimed to owe Fujiki for helping her achieve the top ranking when she was in school. So what does this quirkless woman have in store for whoever joins her agency? Why does she seem so interested in interning students? Find out soon once we get an interview. Nozomi turns off the TV. Why bring up the fact that you're quirkless? Akari wonders out loud. It's not like the lack of a quirk can affect your intelligence. Yeah, I'm not giving those bastards an interview just for their quirksism, Nozomi huffs. Is quirksism even a word? Akari asks with a slight chuckle. No, but it might as well should be. As they sit there, Nozomi slowly realizes something. They mentioned me on TV. which means that everyone knows about me now, not just the students and heroes Loki wondering what Endeavor is thinking right now, but also villains. Everyone's eyes will be on me now. She holds Akari's hand to steady herself. Either I do this right or I have to return to my past life's roots in America. In the prestigious hero school known as UA, Mona settles into their seats with faint looks of interest. Now that you all seem perfectly rested from the sports festival, their teacher, Aizawa, says with his signature monotone voice, you all will. The door suddenly slams open, causing the students to jump in their seats. Good morning, Rumi yells with a grin. Ah, Maruko. Aizawa looks at her with slight annoyance. To what do I owe this interruption? It won't take long, I promise, Rumi claims before walking in, and standing in front of the class she pulls out a stack of cards and slams them down on the podium. All right, kids, as you all probably heard yesterday, my buddy Nozomi got a hero agency. Some of the students sit up straight with interest while a few look at Rumi confused. I know, a quirkless woman wouldn't have the skills to train students, but that's where you're wrong. She's got the skills to train you all to your highest potential. Rumi picks up some of the cards before passing them out to the class. The cards were light blue with the address and phone number of the agency, topped off with a drawing of a chibi. Nozomi giving a thumbs up. A few students snicker at the drawing before their smiles fade at Rumi's glare. Don't laugh, she knows what she's doing, and she hopes to have you intern in her agency soon. By soon, I mean now. They haven't taken their provisional hero license exams yet, Aizawa states. She's aware. Rumi grins, but the HPSC gave her permission to intern students even without their license. This causes buzz among the students. Rumi raises her hand, quieting them down. However, she'll first test everything out with 3 students. No need to fight or something because she told me who she wanted to see. She takes out her phone. Let's see after you're done with school. She expects to see Ijiro Kirishima, Denki Kaminari, and Izuku Midoriya in her agency. She also wanted me to mention that she already has her hero suits and to not worry about bringing refreshments because she'll provide them. She looks at the students before taking the stack of cards. All right, that's all, you 3 better show up or else. She catches Aizawa's stern glare. Kidding, of course. Oh, that reminds me. Rumi hands 2 cards to Aizawa and says, she also said that she'd like you and All Might to come around someday. With that, Rumi walks out of the room. Aizawa looks down at the card in his hand before looking at his students, who were already talking about it. Can you believe it? Denki looks back at Kirishima with a grin. We got chosen. I already have a good feeling just from Maruko saying that Ms. Fujiki will be giving refreshments. Kiri says she clearly wants to treat us well. Not to mention that she's hot. Minda chimes in, prompting a few girls to glare at him. Deku looks at the card before looking up at his classmates and asks, is it true that she's quirkless? Why would they let a quirkless woman own a hero agency? Jiru questions, didn't you see the TV report? Denki asks. When Jiru shakes her head, Denki explains, it said that Fujiki is really smart, went to his prestigious university, and apparently helped Maruko make it to the top of her school's ranking. She's still quirkless. Bakugo reiterates suddenly, I don't care what degrees she's got. There's no way a quirkless woman could even train us well. Even if she was quirkless, it's possible that she could have observed people with quirks. She's observed Maruko all of her life, so she could have come up with good advice by the time Maruko went to school. Deku defends. Quirkless or not, Aizawa advises as he puts the cards in his pocket. You 3 should go see what she's all about still. With Maruko saying that the commission allows this Fujiki to train students without a license. It's concerning. Don't be afraid to tell me if there's anything unsafe in her agency. Mr. Aizawa, Hagakure asks, do you think that Ms. Fujiki could really train us well? He looks over his students for a moment before sighing. I don't know, but I'm not too confident. Like Izuku said, she could have given good advice to Maruko just by observing her over the years they've known one another. All she has for you all is the sports festival. Doubt falls upon the students who were initially excited except for Deku, who only looked more interested. Let's return to the subject of today. What if I freak them out? What if they don't get a good impression? What if their parents don't like me? What if Eraserhead doesn't like me? You really need to relax. Akari watches Nozomi pace back and forth in the agency's foyer. You're going to be fine, trust me, they'll like you. Stop overthinking, stop overthinking, stop overthinking. Oh, they're here. Relax. Nozomi smooths out her blazer before turning around just as the door opens. She couldn't help but smile just from the sight of them as her heart races. Welcome. I'm so glad you all took the time out of your days to visit my agency, she proclaims while holding open her arms. Deku, Kiri, and Denki stare at her in slight surprise. Nozomi clears her throat and puts down her arms. As you probably know, I'm Nozomi Fujiki. This is Akari, or you can call her Ms. Watanabe, my dear friend and secretary. Nozomi gestures to Akari, who bows slightly. We're here to help students like you to reach their full potential. Wow, you've got a lot of enthusiasm, Ms. Fujiki, Denki points out. Hey. Nozomi grins before nodding. I'm just excited. Please give your book bags to Akari while I take you up to the training floor. The two girls glance at one another before Akari takes their book bags and walks away. Nozomi leads the three boys into the elevator, clicking the button to go to the 4th floor. Did you all have a good day at school? Nozomi asks. It went well, Deku replies. That's good. That's good. Yep, it's awkward pushing aside me being Captain Obvious. I should get them to loosen up with some training. The elevator doors open, where they step out onto the floor. On your right, here's the gym for when you want to train your muscles, of course. Refreshments, protein shakes, and protein bars are provided. Kiri gasps at this before a bright smile grows on his face, making Nozomi smile too. She could already imagine him working out with Bakugo. On your left, these are the locker rooms. Go ahead and change into your hero costumes while I'll wait in the simulation room. The trio glance at one another before going into the locker room. A gym. Kiri immediately proclaims in excitement, a gym with free protein. Oh man, Bakugo would love it, don't you think? Careful or else your muscles might explode, Denki quips. Deku zips up his hero costume before looking at the two. Fujiki seems nice, doesn't she? Just from how nice the gym looked, I like her already. Denki pulls on his jacket and shrugs before saying, if she had a gaming room then maybe. Actually, I'm kidding, I agree, she's nice. What did she mean by simulation room? Deku mumbles to himself with wonder and interest in his voice. After a few minutes, the trio walks out of the locker room and heads to the tall double doors at the end of the hallway. When the doors automatically open, they gasp. It was a bare, dimly lit room with a couple of employees and Nozomi standing in front of a control panel with a lot of buttons. The wall had a window to another part of the room, which was white and completely empty. Nozomi turns around with a smile. Welcome to the simulation room. Boys, this is where you'll train. What is this, Miss Fujiki? Deku asks. He looks around, eyeing the white room beyond the window with interest before noticing a fridge nearby. Those are the refreshments. As for the room itself, while I was getting my engineering degree, I met a few people and encouraged the idea to make simulations. Nozomi explains when she notices where his gaze went. Here, go inside. She gestures to the door on her right and their left, which leads into the white room. The trio goes through the door. Stepping into the large white room, they look around for a moment before the white room changes before them. They gasp as they see that they were somewhere downtown in Musutafu City. What do you think? They look over, seeing the window where they see Nozomi talking into a microphone. This is why the HPSC allows me to intern students without them having to get a hero license. For my first lesson to you all, let's test out what you would do in a hostage situation, shall we? With a click of a button, the window dissipates. People spawn in, making a crowd around a taped-off store. Nobody move. The trio carefully push through the crowd to where the commotion was. They see a masked person in the store with everyone else on their knees and their hands raised. Oh my, this guy looks dangerous. Nozomi's voice echoes in the area. What will you do? Midoriya, I know that you'll know what to do since you're the crafty type, but what about Kirishima and Kaminari? They can't have someone or something else think for them in an actual situation on their own. Deku closes his mouth while Kiri and Denki look at each other. Kiri looks into the store before suggesting, we sneak in through the back. And her voice pushes. There's an end. Denki looks at the two, who look at him expectantly. Deep breath and focus. Kaminari, think what else is there to do? She advises with a kind tone. Denki takes a moment to do what she says before finally suggesting, someone should distract the villain in the meantime. Excellent thinking, go ahead, she encourages. Deku gestures for the other two to go to the back. As they do, Deku walks under the police tape line and steps into the store. Don't move a muscle, the simulated villain threatens. I'm not, I just want to talk, Deku tells them. Nozomi watches through the window, already noting the way that Deku's eyes were quickly roaming around everything. In the meantime, Denki and Kiri make it to the back of the store. They open the back door and quietly sneaks in. They hide behind a shelf, eyeing the villain who has their back facing the two. Think you could stun him? Kiri asks quietly. He's too far. Denki says I can't use my quirk that way. What if you can? Nozomi suddenly says. A gadget immediately appears on Denki's wrist, surprising him. Try pointing your finger at the villain and using your quirk. With a wide smile, Denki steps out from behind the shelf and does what Nozomi said. Electricity surges forth, zapping the villain right away. Awesome. Kiri steps out and runs over to subdue the villain, only for the villain to turn around quickly with a knife right before the knife could strike his chest. The villain freezes. In any situation, you must always consider every possibility. In this case, the villain was immune to being stunned by electricity. Kiri, you didn't immediately use your hardening quirk because you focused on the possibility that the villain was weakened. Kiri looks around as if trying to find the window before sighing. Yeah, my bad. That's okay, try again. The simulation changes so that Kiri was standing behind Denki, and the villain had their back turned again, now hardening himself. Kiri rushes forward. The villain attempts to stab Kiri once more, only for the blade to break against his chest. Kiri grabs the villain's wrist before slamming them to the ground. Deku runs in and helps Kiri hold the villain down long enough for a police officer to put the villain in handcuffs. As soon as the villain was taken away, the simulation dissipates back into the white room. They see Nozomi clapping before gesturing the employees by her side to clap as well. She speaks into the microphone. You all did wonderful. Be proud of yourselves, because that was just a taste of my training. And I can confidently say that you all passed. She continues to clap even as her employees stop and the three walk back into the control room. Her excitement was contagious since the boys were smiling too. And I'm so proud of you all, Nozomi continues, now stopping her clapping to put her hands on her hips like a certain hero. You all will be wonderful heroes, I just know it. There's one more thing to do for today. Please change out of your hero costumes after you get your refreshments. While Kiri and Denki head to the fridge, Deku walks up to Nozomi with a smile. With this simulation room, it would be so easy to set up different scenarios. I know, that's what makes it so exciting. If it's not a bother, can I suggest some ideas? It's no bother at all. I know you have wonderful ideas. It's easier than I thought it'd be to talk to them, especially with him. I mean, he's the main character, so we mostly follow his thoughts, right? I already have a sense of how he is, so does that make talking to him easier because I can guess what he'll say? Or is it because I want to be someone who will listen to him? The other two boys watch Nozomi nod along to Deku's rambling on ideas for future training sessions. I think I know why she asked for us specifically. Kiri looks at Denki. To help us think. Well, yeah, that, but also she's good at giving us advice and encouraging us. No offense to Mr. Aizawa, but Ms. Fujiki doesn't threaten to expel us on the first day. The two chuckle before Nozomi and Deku walks over with a laugh after Deku grabs a box of apple juice, which makes Nozomi's smile falter a bit because she remembered that Eri was still out there. They walk out of the simulation room. She waits for them to change out of their hero costumes and back to their school uniforms afterward. They walk into the elevator, where Nozomi clicks the button for the second floor. Since I want this place to be like a second home for anyone that joins my agency, I've set up dorms. The elevator doors open, showing a long hallway lined with doors which had names on them. Nozomi gestures for Deku to open the door with his name on it. When he does, he gasps. Whoa, that's a crap ton of All Might merch, Kiri points out. Deku slowly walks into the room and looks around with a wide smile. Yep, I basically made Rumi tell them to copy and paste their dorm rooms from canon. This is how you get into their good graces. Find your own rooms. Your book bags should be in there. Kiri and Denki look at each other before hurrying down the hallway to find their rooms. Nozomi leans against the doorway while watching Deku look at the All Might figures lined up. What do you think? Nozomi asks with a proud smile. This is how'd you know that I'm a big All Might fan? Shit. Oh, I just had a hunch based on the way you were fighting in the sports festival. It reminded me of All Might, so I put two and two together. A small blush of embarrassment rises to Deku's face before he chuckles. Ms. Fujiki. Nozomi looks over at the other two running over with wide smiles. You actually put in a gaming computer. You gave me my own punching bag. They ask at once. She laughs before proudly stating, of course, I did. I just made a few guesses based on how you guys acted, and it seems I've guessed right. They were looking at her in awe, making her clear her throat. This is going easier than I expected. Well, this can easily be fucked up if I mess up. Why don't you go down and wait for me to wrap things up? Midoriya, I want to talk to you for just a moment. I'm messing up. Why am I doing this? She waits for Kiri and Denki to go into the elevator before turning to Deku. What did you want to talk about, Ms. Fujiki? He asks. Did you have fun? Truly, of course I did, Ms. Fujiki. Like I said earlier, the simulation room is going to be of great help to us. I'm sure my teacher would be happy to know this. He's rambling shit. I don't even want to say it. I'm so nervous. Okay, Nozomi, just do it. Just say it like you're taking off a band-aid. I know you have one for all, and you're All Might's successor. Deku immediately stops talking, staring at her with wide eyes. Nozomi's smile fades as her heart races. He lets out a shaky breath before asking, how do you know? She sighs before telling him, open the top drawer. Deku looks at his desk and slowly opens it. Inside there was an old journal labeled Dream Journal. I feel comfortable telling you this even though we just met, she says. Slowly open it. Thank goodness I've thought of this fake story when I was a kid just so I wouldn't look like a villain now. He does so, unsure of what to expect. His eyes immediately widen. Seeing sketches of him and his classmates, he looks at her, who just gestures for him to continue turning the pages. He does. Seeing writing and sketches, his eyes scan the pages. Seeing moments that he had experienced in his life that barely anyone else should know about, his breath gets heavier as he gets to a page that shows the sludge monster attacking him before attacking Bakugo. His grip tightens at the sight of sketches of All Might training him. He could feel his heart skip a beat from a sketch of Shigaraki, and who was separated during the USJ incident, out of shot. He drops the journal and looks at her. How How could you have known all of that when the dates are from 20 years ago? Nozomi finishes for him. She walks closer and turns the page, showing the teams for the sports festival as well as a sketch of who won. When I was a kid, I've had these dreams showing me all of this, she explains as she closes the journal. I wrote them down and drew them because they kept repeating until I memorized them. All dreams that showed me you, your classmate, and many more since they kept repeating. I had a feeling that they would come true. That's why I encouraged Maruko to have a hero agency built and give it to me. I had to be involved with what I've seen because my knowledge could help. But they said you're quirkless. She looks at him, seeing the way he took a step back. I am the first few dreams I've had. My parents took me to many doctors, however. Every result is the same. Every x-ray of my foot shows something that I know you know very well. They all showed 2 joints on your pinky toe. He finishes for her quietly. He looks down at her feet as if he was imagining a kid Nozomi being told that she's quirkless like he was. He then asks, why then? Why do you want to help us? He looks up at her, trying to read her expression. Nozomi looks at him solemnly before she explains. I've seen things. Midoriya, if you want, you can read my dream journal to see what happens. But I don't recommend it because, well, you and your classmates go through a lot things that you all shouldn't have to experience. Yes, you all grow and learn and change. But you're all still kids who shouldn't have to experience what I've seen you all experience. He looks at the dream journal before looking down, seeing him overwhelmed. Nozomi walks closer and puts her hands on his shoulders. But don't worry with what I know. I can help you all. I can train you and your classmates train and grow in a healthy environment while I'll take care of everything else. Do you trust me? He slowly looks up at her before nodding slowly. I'm sorry for telling you all of this, she says, but I feel comfortable telling you since you seem to be the main focus. It's your story that my dreams have been following. I wanted to tell you just so you would know that you will always have someone on your side. You and your classmates have me. And I promise to protect you, although I'll need all of your classmates to be in my agency, okay? He nods again before looking around his room. He looks at her, then suddenly hugs her. She's stunned by this before hugging back. All right, Miss Fujiki, but if it gets too overwhelming, you can tell me, and I'll help you out. Quirkless people should stick together, right? Even if I'm not quirkless anymore. Yeah, I get it. You've spoken like a true hero. Midoriya, thank you for trusting me since I know this is all really crazy. Not as crazy as being your favorite hero's successor. They chuckle before pulling away. Are you going to tell the others eventually? Yeah, I'm not going to keep secrets from you guys, I promise. Nozomi puts her hand on his back before walking into the elevator with him. When they reach the first floor, they see Denki and Kiri still there. Hey, you okay? What you two talk about? Denki asks with concern. Just about some future training sessions before our topic somehow became the USJ incident. Nozomi says without missing a beat. I'm sorry that happened to you all. Oh, it's okay, Miss Fujiki. We can handle ourselves. Kiri reassures and gives a grin. All right then. Nozomi pats Deku's back before saying, thank you all for coming. You don't have to come back tomorrow, but I do hope I can see you all again. I also hope you all make it home safely. Kiri nods before saying, thank you, Miss Fujiki. Yeah, we'll be sure to come back. We'll also try to bring our classmates over if you don't mind, Denki adds. Deku glances at Nozomi as she says, I don't mind. It'd be quite wonderful if you did. Have a good night, boys. She waves goodbye with a smile as they walk out of her agency. As soon as they were gone, she drops to her knees and sighs out a heavy breath. She takes deep breaths to try and calm her racing heart. I just did that. I can't believe I just did that. Nozomi. Akari runs in and kneels by her side. Are you okay? Nozomi manages to muster a smile and replies, I'm fine, just a bit faint from excitement. Akari helps her up and leads her to the elevator. How did it go? It went well. They seem to like me. Ready to call it a day then? Yeah, Nozomi nods before pressing the button for the 7th floor. I've done it. I've made my mark. The next day came to Nozomi slower than usual. It was because Nozomi couldn't sleep in her agency bedroom until 12 a.m. Even when she did end up sleeping, she ends up waking up at 5 in the flipping morning. Deciding against returning to her slumber, she gets up and changes into her work clothes, sludging her way out. She heads to the small kitchen to her right. Walking past Akari's bedroom, she hums to herself as she scoops coffee grounds and sugar into a coffee machine before turning it on. She checks her phone, seeing 2 missed calls from Rumi. As if sensing that Nozomi noticed, Rumi calls again. Nozomi answers and mumbles, G morning. Good morning. You're up early. Thanks, Captain Obvious. How did it go yesterday with the trio? It went well. They liked the way I trained them, their rooms, and Nozomi takes a moment to yawn before continuing. I told Midoriya, the green one, about my dreams. Oh shit, isn't he the one that shows up the most? Yep, he took it well. I think he also said that if I ever needed help, he would help me out since quirkless people gotta help each other out. Aw, sounds like a sweet kid. Nozomi presses her phone against her ear with her shoulder as she pours the coffee into 2 cups. He is a sweet one also. Hey, totally random request, but can you come over to the agency? Can you also bring a megaphone? Sure, no problem, but why do you need a megaphone? Attention, people of Musutafu City, open your ears and listen up. By the time the girls were done preparing for this, it was already 8 in the morning, so people were bustling about. Nozomi stands on a stepladder in front of her agency. Holding a Maruko-branded megaphone, Rumi was standing by Nozomi's left with her hands on her hips, looking around as if daring anyone to interrupt Nozomi. To Nozomi's right stood Akari, who was looking down and holding up a picket sign which said "Time for Change." Tell me, why do we continue to discriminate against those without a quirk? Why do they have to be shamed and bullied for supposedly being born unlucky? Why do they get made fun of for being the minority? To those guilty of shaming the quirkless, did you ever stop to think that they're humans too? Did you ever think that you're being a villain by shaming someone else? As Nozomi expected, a lot of people walk by without even looking. However, she notices a few people stopping to hear her out. Feeling encouraged, she continues. As a quirkless woman myself with a best friend who's also quirkless, we've experienced hatred just for not having a quirk. We've dealt with hair pulling, name calling, and awful words just for being the only quirkless kids in the neighborhood. We were lucky to have Maruko to defend us. Yes, but not every quirkless person is like us. Many aren't able to defend themselves. Many can't even turn to their parents, who may be the bullies themselves. Many don't even live to adulthood because of how much strike they face. So tell me, Misutafu, why do we shame those for not having a quirk? Why do we hurt them for something they didn't choose to be? More people were stopping to listen. Nozomi takes a moment to look at the crowd. Seeing their interest, she then does a double take, noticing a frail older man with shaggy blonde hair. Small might. She takes a deep breath before continuing. So please, Misutafu, let us spread more kindness. Let us help out our fellow citizens by ending this hate. Because quirkless or not, we're all human beings who are capable of so much. If a quirkless woman like me can stand here with her own hero agency after graduating from school at 14 and earning her degrees, anything is possible. So instead of pushing away a quirkless person, befriend them. Be a hero in your own way, so that they can be a hero in their own ways. We're all heroes no matter what. The crowd cheers for her. Akari and Rumi look at Nozomi with wide smiles while Nozomi waves at everyone proudly. Wonderful speech, Ms. Fujiki. The crowd parts as All Might walks towards Nozomi while clapping and wearing a suit. What's going on? Shaking off some nerves, Nozomi quickly hands the megaphone to Rumi before holding out her hand. How long were you listening, Mr. All Might, sir? He shakes her hand firmly before saying, just enough to know that you're hero material if I do say so myself. Pictures. A photographer calls out. All Might is quick to maneuver himself to have his arms around Nozomi and Akari, whose face was red as she holds up the sign. Still, Rumi puts her arm around Nozomi before holding up a thumbs up. Nozomi holds up two, which prompts Akari to hold one up too right before the photographer takes the photo. All Might. Nozomi looks up at him while poking his arm. Yes, he leans down to hear her better, which made her weak in the knees, though she manages to steady herself. Man, he could totally manhandle me and I would say thanks. Okay, I should focus. You should really go to UA now. He stands up straight at this before letting Nozomi and Akari go. As much as I'd love to stay and talk some more, I must go now. But first, he pulls out a marker from his pocket before grabbing the picket sign out of Akari's hand. He signs his name onto the back before handing it back to Akari. Stay strong, little lady. He pats her on the back before turning to Nozomi to say, the same goes to you. He then looks up and points at Rumi. The same goes to you, Maruko. I'll keep that in mind. She replies while pointing back at him, making the crowd cheer. Did they ever interact in canon? This is so surreal. Farewell. The crowd gasps in awe from All Might jumping high and flying away. Nozomi uses the distraction to grab Akari and Rumi's wrists and lead them into the agency. Rumi also grabbed the stepladder before they went in. By the time the crowd returned their attention to the agency, the three were gone. They sigh and sit on the floor in a nearby room. Holy shit, Nozomi mumbles. All Might patted my back. Akari squeals with tears in her eyes and signed the picket sign. I'm not letting this go. I didn't expect him to show up at all. I didn't even see him coming cause it looked like he just appeared. Rumi says. Nozomi smiles knowingly before Akari grabs her arm and shakes her slightly. Zomi, All Might approves of what you're doing. You're All Might approved. You made it. What even made him decide to come see you right as you were making a speech? Rumi wonders while pulling Akari away from Nozomi. Or he could have crossed paths with Deku. Speaking of which, if they didn't cross paths yesterday, does this mean he's genuinely interested? Or, he just happened to be nearby since I deliberately placed my agency by the road that leads to the school for convenience. In any case, that means more students are going to come. Akari exclaims before standing up. We have to prepare. How are you more excited than Zomi? Rumi asks while narrowing her eyebrows. Nozomi laughs before telling her, let her be. Hey, is Miss Fujiki in the building? The three look at each other in surprise before they leave the room. They see a girl with pink hair talking to the employee behind the desk, which Nozomi recognizes instantly. Yes, she's right here, the employee says before gesturing to his left. Hatsume, Nozomi calls out with a smile. Mei looks over with a grin before rushing over and immediately getting close to Nozomi. So you're the smart lady that's making the rounds. Nozomi nods in response. Hey, personal space, will ya? Rumi chastises as she nudges Mei away. Also, shouldn't you be in school? I am. But I had my parents call my teacher to explain that I'll be visiting this agency. Mei explains while looking around the foyer. You did go through the effort to get an engineering degree after all. An idea pops into Nozomi's head. Hatsum, she says while putting her hands on Mei's shoulders. Do you want to help me create not only gadgets but also support items for students, heroes, and more? Mei gasps before nodding vigorously. Hold it, Zomi. Rumi cuts in. Knowing you. You two will be busy all day until she misses the school day. We can also make you a gadget to make you jump higher and kick harder, Nozomi immediately says. Say less, get to it. Nozomi laughs before gesturing for Mei to follow her to the elevator as they start to talk about what they'll make. Akari and Rumi glance at one another. We're not going to see them again for a while, are we? Akari wonders. Probably not. On the top floor of Nozomi's agency in her office, Nozomi was pacing around as Mei sits by a workbench, focusing on the gadget in her grasp. I got it. The sharpshooter is ready. Nozomi looks at Mei with excitement as Mei walks over and attaches the gadget to the arm of a mannequin. There we go. Should have no problems now whatsoever. Good work. Hatsum, I wouldn't mind having you come around my agency more often, Nozomi says while patting Mei's back as they look over the few mannequins which had familiar-looking hero costumes with gadgets affixed. Obviously, since you seem to get along well with support companies, I'll make sure you get a good job after you graduate from UA. Mei looks at Nozomi with wide eyes. Are you serious? Of course I mean. You took the time out of your day to help me make gadgets and new hero costumes for a couple of people. Can I trouble you for more help tomorrow? Yes, I can put my skills to work, Mei says excitedly. Oh, I can already imagine the sweet babies I'll make. I may have a couple of ideas for us to work on, though that means I'll have to order more materials, Nozomi mumbles. She then glances at the clock. Oshi, you missed school? Hatsum, your parents must be worried. It's been a couple of hours already. Time goes by quickly, Mei states. Nozomi hurries to her desk and writes something on a piece of paper. Here, you can give this excuse tomorrow to your teacher, Nozomi suggests while handing it to Mei. Thank you so much for your help. I'll walk you out. They walk to the elevator and head down to the first floor. Ms. Fujiki, the employee at the front desk, says a few UA students came by for training a couple of minutes ago, but I told them you were busy. You what? I wouldn't have minded to step away from whatever I was doing just to train students, Nozomi chastises before ordering next time. Unless I specifically say that I don't want interruptions, you can call me if anyone wants to see me. She looks at the front for the slight chance to see if those students were still nearby, only to see a particular blonde boy walking out of sight. I'll keep that in mind for next time. Ms. Fujiki, also another student, came by a moment ago. Okay, thank you for your diligent work, Nozomi says before she heads to the door, texting Akari to keep an eye on the agency for a while. Whoa, I didn't expect you to actually walk me out, Ms. Fujiki, Mei quips with a chuckle. Oh, Nozomi looks between her and the boy of interest before explaining. I just wanted to go home to get something real quick. I don't mind walking with you to the bus stop. Mei takes this chance to talk about more gadgets they could produce. Nozomi was half listening because she was making sure he didn't leave her sight. Wait, this is straight up stalking, isn't it? She has a moment of clarity when the two make it to the bus stop. I just moved without thinking because I saw one of my favorite characters. I followed him for the sliver of a chance that we'll have a normal, civil discussion, where he will totally talk to me kindly. I thought I managed to get over my past life's fanatics, but well. A bus stops in front of them. Mei stops talking about a jetpack upgrade to take out her student ID. Nozomi reaches into her pocket, where there was conveniently enough yen to cover the bus fare. Nozomi had a pained smile on her face as a consequence to her stupidity. If I get blown up, I'm donating everything I own to charity except for my Endeavor collection, which Akari will have to take care of if she doesn't want me to haunt her. Nozomi does her best to look as if she doesn't want to kill herself as she holds onto the bus hand grip. A few people were staring at her, but she didn't pay any attention. You know what? Since I want to live and I've already lost my dignity just from coming here, I'll go home and bury myself in a ditch with that Endeavor plush. She's broken out of her thoughts when she realizes who was looking at her. A couple of inches away stood Bakugo in his school uniform with his book bag in hand. He was staring at her incredulously, prompting Nozomi to wave like an idiot. Stop waving, stop waving, stop waving. Why is he getting closer? Can I jump out the bus or something? Right now, I'd rather talk to Shigaraki over Bakugo before his character development on my own. What are you doing here? He asks, almost accusingly. Going home. While I assume you're doing the same. How was your day at school? She asks casually. My palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. This is how I'm keeping sane. Don't judge me. He scoffs before looking away. Don't think I didn't notice you visiting my agency. I wasn't visiting your dumb agency. He retorts. I was there to look for a classmate who said he was going to visit. That's the same as visiting my oh-so-dumb agency. He rolls his eyes at her and looks away after a couple of minutes. The bus stops when he gets off. She hesitates for a moment before following him, which he notices. I don't remember you living around here, he points out while glaring at her. Why the hell are you following me? What have you heard about my agency? You followed me off the bus just to ask for my opinion. Deku, I manifest you to appear and save me from my dumbass decisions. She smiles and admits, yes, I did. I saw the sports festival, and you're quite the powerful student. Of course I am, he acknowledges before crossing his arms. All right, you want my opinion? I think you're a lying little shit. Why do you say that? Nozomi continues to smile at him despite feeling slightly hurt. Her smile seems to anger him. Deku told me about your dreams. Of course, he did. Yet you claim to be quirkless. TCH. He may believe you, but you don't have any proof of your so-called X-rays. Hell, even if you do, you could use your friend's X-rays. She rolls her eyes and mutters, it's hard to fake an X-ray, you know. I don't know how the hell you're friends, even that Maruko believes you, but you ain't fooling me. With that, he turns to walk away. She takes in a deep breath as her smile fades. You should really watch your attitude. Bakugo, people might think that you're a villain. Huh. He looks back at her. Me, a villain? I didn't realize owning a hero agency by chance made you a comedian. No, I'm serious. Some think of you as a villain, she reiterates, giving a firm stare. She continues, it's to the point where even the League of Villains think so, leading to them kidnapping you. She covers her mouth while he stares at her with wide eyes. After a moment, he starts to laugh. Kidnap me? Lady, do you have any idea who you're talking to? He walks closer and holds up his hand, making small explosions. It was so close to her face that she could feel the warmth, yet her firm stare didn't falter. No one is going to kidnap me with what I can do. I'm really serious, Bakugo. So am I. He stands up straight and glares down at her. What, you think I can't protect myself? Nozomi gently sets his hand aside as her voice softens. Bakugo, I know you can. You've got a powerful quirk, but since you acted so aggressively in the sports festival, the wrong people got the wrong impression. You're going to be a great hero, but you should know when to accept the way things are. TCH, whatever. He turns and walks a few steps away before suddenly stopping. He looks back at her. Where Nozomi could swear that his expression softens, he looks forward and continues to walk just as another bus drives up. With a shaky sigh, Nozomi turns and walks into it. I just hope he'll take it to heart, even if it takes a while for it to set in. She's silent as the bus rides through the neighborhood. She then hums to herself as she walks off and heads to her home. The first thing she does when she walks inside is close the door behind her and lay down on the couch. For someone with 3 degrees, I'm an idiot. At least it ended up okay in the end, and now I'm talking to myself. That's really great. After a moment, she goes to her bedroom. She walks to her nightstand, opens a drawer, and pulls out a journal. She flips through it until she finds the page she wanted to see. I hope he comes by tomorrow regardless of today. She sits in front of the sewing machine perched in front of her window at the foot of her bed, setting the journal down. She picks up a needle and carefully sews a thread into it. She glances at the Endeavor plush next to the sewing machine with the paint of the scar already chipping. She glances at the journal before closing it. Shoto should come by too. Scratching the paint off, she picks up the plush and gets to work on sewing dull pink onto the face. Knowing that bastard, he'll be sure to come if Shoto is there. The following day in the afternoon, Nozomi's agency was mostly silent. Do you have any 8s? Rumi asks. Nope. Akari shakes her head. Do you have any 3s? Nah. Rumi and Akari were sitting on the floor of Nozomi's office while Nozomi was sleeping with her head in her arms. When's the next hero gala? Akari asks while getting a card. About 2 months or so. Rumi replies while also getting a card from the stack. I'll try to convince some heroes to give Nozomi some support. After a moment, the phone on Akari's desk right outside Nozomi's office rings. Nozomi wakes up instantly as Akari heads to the phone. Rumi looks back at Akari before checking her cards. Oh fuck you, you did have an 8. Rumi chuckles before getting up and walking to Nozomi. Nap well? Yeah, it was okay. Nozomi stands up and takes a moment to stretch while Rumi eyes the Endeavor plush on her desk with disgust. Seriously, what do you see in that guy? He's cool. Yeah, when he's not talking. Rumi huffs. Actually, if the scar does happen, maybe it'll break his ego a bit, and he'll be less of a pain in the ass. Nozomi chuckles before pointing out, you kinda have an ego too. Before Rumi could deny such a statement, Akari hurries back into the office. Nozomi, Class 1A, there. Holy shit. When the 3 arrive at the first floor, they see the entirety of Class 1A in the lobby. Nozomi gives a knowing glance to Deku, who smiles faintly before gesturing for the others to pay attention. Welcome, welcome. Nozomi greets them with a wide smile. I'm so glad you all decided to come. In fact, it's wild to see you all here. We came by yesterday to ask if you'd want to train the entire class, but a worker said you were busy, Deku explains, but it gave me, Kirishima, and Kaminari extra time to convince everyone to come by. It was surprisingly easy to convince a certain someone too, since he said that he doubts her training ability, Kiri says while glancing at Bakugo. Bakugo glares at Kiri before yelling, I'm only here because everyone else was going. Nozomi gives Deku a knowing look before grinning. Well, you all came on a lucky day since not only am I free, but Maruko is here to give you all tips. Before Rumi could react, Nozomi points to the elevator. You can all either take turns going to the 4th floor or you can get some cardio in and warm up by using the stairs, which I recommend you doing. The students look at each other before most head to the stairs. Nozomi watches them before she looks at an unamused Rumi. Not cool, Zomi. Sorry, I had to. Nozomi laughs a bit before looking at Akari. Can you get the forms? In the simulation control room, Nozomi waits as the students fill out forms asking for their names, birth dates, contact information, caregivers' contact information, their favorite food, favorite snack, and favorite drinks. They also had to put their signature, agreeing to acknowledge a statement that said they should trust that Nozomi would take full responsibility if any of them get hurt. After the finished forms were done, they were handed to Akari. Okay, before we start, students, I want to address something. Nozomi starts before clearing her throat. Your hero costumes. What about them? Bakugo asks. A lot of them, if not all, need improvement, Nozomi says as she eyes them. Are they bad? Uraraka asks tentatively. No, a few of you have done well for now and just need a few gadgets and such for that extra oomph. Others, meanwhile, are either impractical, look bland, or just look ridiculous, Nozomi says before she looks directly at Mainta, who is staring at her. He pretends as if he didn't have a perverted expression before asking, is there something wrong with my costume? For starters, you look like you're wearing a diaper, which would make villains laugh at you. This causes a few snickers to Mainta's chagrin. Looks aside, the cape is also impractical. Nozomi explains, I know capes look cool and add to the whole hero look, but they're detrimental. For example, what if your cape gets snagged in debris? What if a really dangerous villain grabs it and uses it to fling you around? You might panic and not be able to take off or rip the cape to escape. The students look at each other thoughtfully as Mainta looks at his cape with a frown. She even notices the way Yama looks away. On another note, they couldn't have found a way to make something useful for your quirk. Nozomi looks at the floating gloves. I suppose not, Hagakure says. Nozomi shakes her head as she mutters. Seriously, they're in charge of making costumes yet couldn't have used some engineering to really make things work. The class looks at her for a moment, making her clear her throat. And then Momo, yay Yorazu, right? Momo stands up straight, seeming nervous. Your quirk is to create items from your body, right? Yes, ma'am. Nozomi gestures for her to step forward, which she does. Nozomi walks around Momo before patting her back. You're all kids, so don't feel ashamed that your costumes aren't entirely perfect, fashionable, and practical for the real world in this case. She looks at Momo and turns her around. You need to show as much skin as possible to be able to produce bigger items, right? However, it's impractical to have your back covered. Yeah, she had a wardrobe malfunction during the USJ incident, Jiru confirms. Now fashion-wise, Nozomi turns Momo to face her and sighs. Yay Urazu. I know you need to expose skin, but at this point in your life, you shouldn't expose your chest. Why not? Momo asks as she looks down at herself. You're a teenage girl, this just gives creeps the chance to look at you, which is already happening. Nozomi turns to glare at Denki and Mainta before looking back at Momo. Furthermore, again, impracticality. If you're a hero in the future and experience another wardrobe malfunction, some overprotective parent could sue you for indecent exposure. Trust me, you don't want to deal with legal problems. Can confirm, Rumi states even if you can get the best, least sleazy lawyers, it's a lot of paperwork to deal with. Nozomi turns Momo to the side. Besides, Nozomi whispers as someone with a large chest. This looks difficult to run in. Right, I guess I haven't thought of that. It's okay, live and learn, sweetheart, live and learn. Nozomi gestures for Momo to return to the group. Girls, actually. This goes for the boys too, everyone. There's nothing wrong with the way your bodies look. Your quirks may also require you to show more, or you just want to show off. I'm not shaming you for doing so. However, you have to remember that being a hero requires an image. You don't want to have an image that makes you seem like a hero fans can ogle unless you 100% want that. You have to think carefully about the way you want your fans to see you. Okay. You don't want to be stuck acting one way when that's not who you truly are. Rumi eyes the students, noting the way they were listening attentively. Now that we have that out of the way, I have a surprise for all of you. I'm doing you all a favor. Nozomi gestures for her employees to go into the white room, which looked empty through the window. However, when the employees leave the white room, the students gasp from seeing them leave with clothed mannequins, with one carrying a bag. Needless to say, I spent a lot of time sewing, plus, with a lot of help from your fellow UA student Hatsume. Did you call me, Miss Fujiki? The students turned to see Mei walking inside with a grin. She also had a sports bag over her shoulder. I finished what you suggested yesterday. I know these guys will put my babies to good use. Indeed, they will. Go on. Take your new costumes and change into them as you leave the locker room. Stop by me or Hatsum so that we can put on your gadgets. Those that don't have a new costume, don't worry, I didn't forget about you. I just need to give you more practicality. One stares at Nozomi with wide eyes before slowly grinning at one another. The four watch. Most of the students happily take the mannequins with them into the locker room. An employee gives Nozomi a bag before she and Mei leave to the hallway where a few students were, leaving Rumi and Akari in the simulation control room. There's a lot of variety in snacks, Akari mutters while looking through the forms. A mocha? Huh. Good thing the bakery nearby sells some. Rumi walks out of the room and stands next to Nozomi, who was watching Mei give Kota a utility belt with medicine and animal food. You nervous? Yeah, but also excited, Nozomi admits. Rumi eyes her for a moment before noticing something. What's this? Rumi reaches into Nozomi's pocket and takes out a folded paper, only for Nozomi to snatch it back. That's Nozomi laughs slightly as a blush rises to her cheeks. That's private. Rumi raises an eyebrow as Nozomi avoids her gaze. As Nozomi picks out smaller grenade-like gauntlets from her bag, she notices Deku glancing at her before looking away. I may be in a silly goofy mood again, but I'll leave my silly goofy actions for later, you too. And I would describe the new costumes, but that would take half a chapter to do. I want the juicy plot stuff already, so I'll show the redesigns I've found and liked on TikTok. If the links don't work, you can look for them when you can. Hagakure costume redesign by Liasukale. She has clothes now, hallelujah. Uraraka costume redesign by Trickster Spirit. As the caption says, Uraraka never wanted tight clothes. Momo costume redesign by Fur 76563. Replace zipper with Velcro and she's good for her neutral special. Kirishima costume redesign by Itsma tuberculosis and drawn by 1TCH Bud looking manly. Kiri, Mina, Ida, Juru, Minta, Denki, Tsuyu, Takoyami, Shoji, and Aoyama costume redesigns by Blinking Sun. Linked. Minas but Opus has a playlist where you can find the others I've mentioned. Also, Nozomi replaces Aoyama's cape with a cloak to sorta show how he's hiding something. Amurite. I didn't find a Shoto redesign I liked, so I'm gonna suggest one. I can see Nozomi leaning into the half and half joke by making his costume red and blue. It'd be asymmetrical with his fire side, having less clothing to keep it cool while the inside of his ice side has insulators to keep it warm. He's also keeping the 5 weenies belt because it simply sparkles. Iconic sparkles. Those who don't get a new costume either get belts that hold useful necessities like first aid or, in Bakugu's case, a more practical gadget. Seriously, how can he walk normally with those big gauntlets? That's all, amigos. After 10 minutes of the students getting into their upgraded costumes or adjusting their given gadgets, gear, the class enters the simulation room as Akari leaves with the forms. Nozomi lightly taps the microphone before speaking into it. Alright, now let's test out your upgrades with your first lesson. Fighting in different environments. Heroism won't always happen in a city after all. The white room transforms into a forest, making most of the students gasp in awe. Cool, a few murmur. Miss Fujiki, Ida calls out. Yes, tell us how this simulation works. Nozomi hums for a moment before explaining. Well, with the use of technology, I don't want to explain. I'm able to simulate any location and person I want. The tech takes the information it's given before projecting it. The white room also has speakers and a movable floor to add realism. For example, she presses a button, causing herself to appear in front of them. It's also capable of mimicking voices. The fake Nozomi says efficient for training. Right. The fake Nozomi smiles before suddenly transforming into a Namu. The students tense up, yet the Namu remains still. This is what attacked you in USJ, right? Nozomi asks before advising if you ever have to face this thing again, you should take the time to study it, so you can face it head on if no pro hero is around to help you. It takes the students a moment to approach the still Namu. First thing that happens is Bakugu punching it. Ugh, this thing is sturdy. Nozomi gestures something to an employee, causing a ladder to appear nearby. Deku picks it up and leans it against the Namu. He climbs up and inspects the head. It's more soft up here. I think this is the weak point, he concludes. So it's like a zombie. Zero notes. Right on the money, Spider-Man. Nozomi claps at this before saying, nice observation. Now, for your next lesson of the day, be ready for any surprises. Think fast. She slams her hand on another button, bringing the Namu to life. It roars, knocking a few students back and tossing Deku onto a tree. Work together to get to the head, she announces. The Namu runs away, prompting Ida and Bakugu to immediately chase after it. Get moving, kids. If you can't follow, think of a strategy, Nozomi encourages. Deku jumps out of the tree while Momo looks through her tablet. You added new compositions, she mumbles. She takes a moment to read before creating a jetpack from her back. Wait here, she tells the others before flying up, creating binoculars from her tummy. She looks through them to see the Namu. At some point, Ada speeds past the Namu and stands in front of it. The Namu quickly turns around, only for Bakugu to blast its face. Smoke rises in the area before the Namu appears, barely having a scratch. What's the situation, Momo? Uraraka yells. Momo lowers herself to the ground before saying, it's coming back, so we should set up a trap. Excellent thinking, Yayurazu. Nozomi compliments. Never forget to always value your strengths. The same goes to all of you. She gives a reassuring smile to Momo, whose eyes seem to light up. Nozomi observes them plan out a trap before she looks at Rumi. What do you think? Rumi smirks and says, I think these kids are in good hands. Then after a moment of silence, so what's in the paper? And wow, they're doing well in setting up the trap. Nozomi. She clears her throat and mutters, this simulation is set up really well, wish Akari could come back sooner. Rumi rolls her eyes before grabbing Nozomi's wrist and pulling her away from the window. Okay, what the hell is it? With a faint groan, Nozomi pulls out the paper and gives it to Rumi. Rumi unfolds it, seeing that it was a letter. She skims over it before looking at Nozomi incredulously. You can't be serious, when did you even write this? In the middle of making adjustments to his son's costume. Rumi huffs as she folds the paper again and shoves it back in Nozomi's pocket, making her wince. What? He won't like it if it's wrinkled, Nozomi chastises. If he even reads it. Zomi, I love you and all, but you're being an idiot to stoop so low as to write a fucking letter to beg him to be part of your agency. Nozomi just shakes her head and walks back to the window. I haven't told her and Akari about his epiphany and repentance arc yet. I'm leaving it as a surprise to everyone. But I do want to be there when it happens, not in the room where it happens, but you know what I mean, right? Rumi stands next to her, having her arms crossed while glaring at Nozomi, who was focusing on the students. She notices that they were hiding behind and in the trees now. A smile rises to her face when she sees a few birds singing. It's almost here, a quiet voice announces. Nozomi does a gesture to an employee, who moves their view. The window now focuses on the Namu was running through the forest with Ida and Bakugo in hot pursuit. Nozomi holds her breath after a moment. The Namu steps on a purple sphere while Ida runs past it. Bakugo takes the moment to blast its face once more, causing smoke to cover its vision. This gives Zero the chance to wrap tape around the Namu's legs. Get the arms, Deku calls out. Momo hands Shoji a bundle of rope before he goes to jump on its back. Wait, Nozomi speaks into the microphone, disoriented first. She looks at Jiru, who immediately understands. Shoji quickly gets out of the way as she aims her sound cannon and blasts a sound wave at the Namu at the same time. Denki zaps at the Namu, stumbles before swaying in place. Shoji now jumps onto its back. Grabbing its arms to tie them, the Namu tries to shake him off, only for acid to splash onto its face. This glove is awesome, Mina says with glee. Come on, you can do it, Hagakure shouts while jumping in place, noticeable by a hopping holographic cloak. Shoji manages to tie the Namu's arms. He gets off of it in time for Tsuyu and Ajiro to jump out of a tree and knock it to the ground. Uraraka takes a deep breath before touching its legs, causing it to fly up feet first. Kiri hardens his fists before charging forward and punching the Namu's head, barely causing a scratch. Deku charges and necks, screaming as he punches the head. It explodes, making cheers erupt from the speakers. The simulation dissipates back into the white room while Nozomi jumps in place, clapping and cheering proudly while Rumi and her employees were looking at her as if she was crazy. A couple of students smile proudly. She stops celebrating to speak into the microphone. Come on out, kids, it's time for refreshments. Make a line as you leave. Nozomi skips happily to the fridge as the students do as she says, disregarding her earlier disappointment. Rumi smiles as Nozomi hands out refreshments to the students. That was great. That's the third lesson of the day. Teamwork truly makes the dream work. Ignoring how cheesy that sounds, you should all pat yourselves on the back. Yes, a few of you haven't done anything, but that's okay because there's always more opportunities to work together in the future. She claps again for a moment, making certain students look away out of embarrassment. Now come downstairs to the first floor because I have a great way to end off our first lesson. The students and even Rumi look at her with wide eyes as she walks away. They all eventually make their way down to the first floor, going past the front desk and entering the large room the trio were in yesterday. Akari was already there, standing between a speaker and tables set with snacks and drinks. Ta-da! Nozomi goes to the middle of the room and spreads her arms. Welcome to the party room where we'll have our very first dance party. The students stare at her in bewilderment before looking at Rumi, who is just as confused as them. Akari taps a button on her phone, prompting a synthesized pop song to start playing. Hot hot, hot hot summer. Come on, loosen up a bit. This is a good way to relax or celebrate, Nozomi encourages before she looks at Mina, who is nodding her head to the music. You look like a dancer, so you should help me liven them up. Nozomi comes closer and drags Mina away from her classmates with a chuckle. Mina starts to dance the official choreography of the song, Gammon Bakari ya Hajiksu. To her joy, Nozomi does the same. You a fan? Mina asks. Also, how can you even dance in those heels? I am, Nozomi replies, and I just had a lot of practice. Now kids, even if you don't know the official dance to a song, you can always freestyle it like so. Soko kara kuraiki akara. Nozomi starts to do her dance moves to the song, feeling encouraged. Mina also does her own moves. Hagakure steps forward, dancing her own way as well. It took a moment before even Ida joins in, doing very robotic moves. With a giggle, Nozomi copies him, which only makes him give a sheepish grin. That's the spirit. Atsui Hazaki Jiri. Titui Yakid. A few students join in on the freestyle dancing as well. Even if you don't want to dance, get a snack from the table because you've earned it. Be sure to thank Ms. Watanabe while you're there. Get to vibing. Nozomi backs away, watching with a wide smile as the students finally loosen up. Yoru Janai. Hot summer. A hot summer. Half of the students were dancing in the middle of the room, the other half were by the tables, eating their favorite snack or talking to one another. Rumi had gone up to Akari, already in a conversation about the cost of the snacks. With everyone distracted, Nozomi slips out of the room with a grin. I'll be back, she tells the front desk employee as she leaves the agency. Hot summer. Nozomi takes out her phone and types out something after finding the address to the spot she wanted to go to. She sets off her walk while humming to the song playing back at the party. Maribu no Hamabe Janai Kido, Karado Hikaru Nami wo Chado. A wide smile was on her face. She keeps her hand in her pocket where the letter was. Despite the place she wanted to go to being quite a distance away from her agency, she didn't care. She was in a great mood, smiling at people, helping an old lady cross a street, and redirecting a lost kid to their worried mother with her feet aching from the walk. She stands in front of Endeavor's agency with a deep breath. She walks inside with a hum. In this weather, all them heads be turning. Her thoughts are broken when her arm bumps into someone. Oh, I'm so sorry, she immediately blurts out, only for her eyes to widen when she sees who she bumped into. The number 3 hero eyes her before smirking. Well, I'll be Nozomi Fujiki in the flesh. What brings such an upstart like yourself here of all places? Hawks asks, crossing his arms. Hawks, it's great to meet you. Nozomi holds out her hand due to politeness as she stares into his mesmerizing eyes. Hawks laughs before shaking her hand. Great to meet Maruko's best friend she talks so fondly about. Seriously, you're one impressive woman. Thank you. After a moment, he pulls her to the side. All right, kid, let's not block the entrance of this busy place. Kid, I'm pretty sure I'm older than you by a few years. He chuckles before leaning against a wall and teasingly says, I'm still taller than you though, so you're basically a kid. Nozomi rolls her eyes and sits on the chair next to him, seeing the way his wings stretch out a bit. So seriously, what are you doing here? Or well, did Rumi ever tell you that I'm a huge fan of Endeavor? His wings flap slightly, making her smile. Cute. Yeah, she's mentioned it. How long have you been a fan? Current age plus past life's knowledge of Endeavor equals to 30-something. So that's how long I've been a fan, all in my age of 27. My whole life. You. Same. He's pretty cool, isn't he? He asks fondly. Oh buddy, if only you knew. Yep, he is, but only once he realizes how much of a prick he is. He looks at her for a moment, eyeing her once again. Nozomi plays with a strand of her hair while her skin had a light sheen from sweat. What was he thinking? You still haven't answered my question, kid. Oh right. Nozomi pulls out the slightly wrinkled folded paper and gives it to him. He takes it and carefully unfolds it, being greeted by Nozomi's neat handwriting in blue pen. To Endeavor, my name is Nozomi Fujiki, a 27-year-old quirkless woman who owns a hero agency. As you may recall from around a week ago, I waved at you while walking with Maruko after the sports festival. I know this is a strange thing to see and it's so sudden, but I felt like writing to you for as long as I can remember. I've been a huge fan of you with all of the work you've done for the world. I believe you'll be a wonderful addition to my agency. Plus, you'll be pleased to know that your son, Shoto Todoroki, is already an intern for it. I can assure you that I'm improving his skills and encouraging him to be better. I've also made him and his classmates new hero costumes to further improve their quirk usage. It would mean so much to me if you can come by during your free time to see how I train him. If you approve of my training, I will be happy to discuss further collaborations between us. Hope to see you soon, Nozomi Fujiki. Hawks reads it carefully before chuckling. Wow, you're desperate. Hey, Nozomi glares at him as an embarrassed blush rises to her face. I just want him to see how I train. That's all. You might as well have asked him to marry you while you're at it. He teases, but seriously, did you really make new hero costumes for them? Yeah, I also made new gadgets to help them out too, but I had help from another student in UA. He nods with an impressed look. You seriously should have mentioned your degrees. He values intelligence. I think he could have heard about it by now though, so it'd be redundant for me to mention them. Nah, he doesn't watch entertainment news, he mentions while reading the letter again. Nozomi keeps her eyes on him before catching his eye. When he looks at her, he gives a charming smile before folding the letter. Do you want me to be your delivery bird? I can also tell him how smart you are, like I did with the Hero Public Safety Commission. She smiles and agrees. That would be wonderful. Thank you, Hawks. You're welcome. Any friend of Rumi is a friend of mine after all. Speaking of the devil, Nozomi's phone pings. She checks, seeing a text from Rumi asking where she was. Nozomi takes a moment to send a reply explaining that she went to deliver the letter. Wait, you walked all the way over here? He asks as he puts the folded letter in his pocket. Yeah, I have to go back now. I gave the kids a dance party to relax from their first lesson, so I should be there to send them home. I'll see you around, Hawks. She smiles at him before walking out of the agency. When she steps out, she feels a hand on her shoulder. I think I have a way to get you there faster than walking in heels, kid. Nozomi squeaks as Hawks pulls her close. Hang on tight. Seeing his wings spread, Nozomi immediately jumps and wraps her legs around him. He then lifts off the ground. Having his arms wrapped securely around her waist, she screams and hooks her arms under his to hold onto his shoulders. Wind flows through her hair as he flies through the city with her in his arms. How are you feeling, kid? He asks. Scared. I don't like heights, you know. She screams while having her eyes shut. My bad, don't worry, we're almost there. After a minute or so, she hears a few gasps. All right, you can let go of me now. Nozomi slowly opens her eyes and sees that she was in front of her agency. She carefully gets back on her feet, shaking slightly. Easy now, you okay? She nods and smooths out her hair. All right then, see ya. Before she could thank him, Hawk steps away and flies off. She looks at the startled pedestrians before waving and hurrying into her agency. She immediately heads into the party room, seeing that the students were still having fun. Miss Fujiki, Deku greets her. Where have you been? Oh, just delivering something. Did something happen? No, actually, I just wanted to thank you for the gadgets you gave us. Yeah. Mina walks over with a wide smile. I was just talking with Hatsum about it, and she said you came up with most of them. The other students finally noticed that she was back before going to her. Also, thank you for making us new costumes. Ms. Fujiki, Shoji adds, did you make them yourself? No, I've had some assistance from the companies that make them. Hatsum stands next to her before saying, come on, don't pretend as if you weren't sewing them yourself in your office. Wait, really? Zero wonders in surprise. Yeah, while I was working on my babies, she was sewing by machine or by hand. Many students gain looks of awe. Thanks, I honestly quite like the new style you've given me, Jiru says. You made mine baggy, which I actually prefer. Uraraka adds with a smile, it's as if you knew I didn't want tight clothes. She and a few students laugh while Nozomi and Deku look at each other knowingly. She also catches Bakugu's stare, who looks away immediately. So when is the next lesson? Ms. Fujiki? Ida asks. Yeah, when's the next one? Hagakure wonders. Oh, Nozomi looks at everyone with a smile. Well, whenever you all can come back, I'll be more than happy to train you all again. I'll also be happy to give you more engineering tips. Hatsum, so that your babies can be better. They beam at her, happy to hear her words. And thank you for the dance party. Ms. Fujiki, I was wondering why you asked us for our favorite snacks. Ribbit, Tsuyu says. You're most welcome. Remember, dance parties are only for celebration or to relax, so don't act stressed just so I would set up another. Nozomi states, now come on, time to go home. Some students immediately groan, making her laugh. All right, 15 more minutes, kids. While many immediately go back to dancing or getting snacks, a few stay back to ask Nozomi about her decision and her design choices while she answers them. She notes Deku lingering as if wanting to talk to her. It takes a while for the two to finally be on their own in their side of the room. Did you need something? Kaken said that you told him that he was going to get kidnapped, he says while looking at her worryingly. Is that true? She frowns before slowly nodding. When? A field trip that happens later on. The League of Villains go after him, and as hard as you and your classmates tried to protect him, you weren't able to. What? Do we save him at least? Nozomi thins her lips. I don't want to say anything more, especially when what I'll say would eventually become irrelevant if everything works out. He also shouldn't be worrying about a future event at this point. You shouldn't worry about that, Midoriya. She tells him, because I'll make sure to set up a meeting with UA staff and have extra protection set to make sure that will never happen. He nods slowly before taking a step closer. But Miss Fujiki, now I'm wondering, how would the villains know where we have our field trip? Now this is something I can talk about. Nozomi leans closer to him and whispers in his ear. One of your classmates is a traitor. His eyes widen in shock before he looks over at his classmates, who are happily talking, eating, or dancing. Do you know who? Yes. Who is it? I can't tell you. Why not? If we have a traitor who's giving information to villains, then. She puts her hands on his shoulders. Midoriya, listen to me carefully. I'm not telling you because they haven't done anything too terrible yet. However, I can tell you that they don't want to be a spy. They're forced. Their family is threatened. And they're not evil. I can help them though. How? I plan on talking to you all individually to learn more on what you all want to do to get stronger and what you want to learn there. I plan on telling them that I know they're a spy, but that I will help keep them and their family safe. I can work from there, making sure to pull them away from the role they were forced into. They have the potential to be a great hero, and I'll make sure to make it happen. She pulls her hands away, letting him process her words. Aren't you scared? Why would I be? The traitor is working for a terrible villain. Miss Fujiki, I've seen Shigaraki and he's not someone to mess with. Well, I'm not someone to mess with either, she says while crossing her arms. Besides, my dreams gave me a lot of information about Shigaraki. I can handle him. He gives her a look of doubt but nods anyways. Okay, but remember, Ms. Fujiki, if you get into any trouble. Midoriya, she interrupts him for the next several minutes. Don't be a hero, be a kid. Let the adult who knows more than she should handle everything. Okay. Go have fun and make some new friends. She gives him a comforting smile, which didn't deter his worried stare. Oh, and be sure to talk to and keep an eye on Ida especially. Okay. His older brother went through something recently and I don't want him to do anything stupid. She winks at Midoriya, who nods immediately and goes to him. Nozomi watches with a knowing stare before noticing Bakugo looking at her again. She gestures for him to come closer, only for him to shake his head and glare at her. Does he think I look down on him? She frowns at the thought before looking away. Bye. Get home safely. Nozomi waves as the students leave her agency. Bye, Miss Fujiki. Denki calls out. We'll be sure to come back soon when we can. Hatsum adds, at least, I will. See ya tonight, you too. Rumi says with a grin, hero work is never done. Bye-bye. Akari waves goodbye as well. As soon as everyone leaves, Nozomi and Akari sigh. Man, what a day that was fun though, Akari says and looks at Nozomi. Nozomi smiles back and adds, they seem to like me. Like you. They love you, Nozomi. You're making a great impression on them. Akari gushes. Love me, huh? Nozomi smiles wider and puts her hands in her pockets, only to feel something new. She pulls it out, seeing that it was a card that says need help. Call the wing hero. With a number on the bottom, she turns over the card and chuckles, seeing text me and a different number written. Akari peeks over her shoulder and gasps before asking, whose number is that? A new friend. A very important one at that. Drinks, anyone? Rumi holds up a bottle of sake with a grin while wearing casual attire. Yeah, I could use some, Nozomi says with a smile, sitting on the couch in her office. You, Rumi looks at Akari, who is sitting next to Nozomi. She shakes her head and gives a sad smile as she replies, no, I'm good. Again, Rumi groans and sits between them. Come on, you always skip out on drinking even though you stopped living with her mom ages ago. And again, it's not my mom who tells me to not drink. It's my dad. I'd rather respect his wishes. Rumi pats Akari's shoulder before taking a sip from the bottle and handing it to Nozomi. She takes it and sips some sake before taking out her phone. Say, when do you think Bird Boy is going to message back? Rumi laughs before saying, give it a few business days since that asshole overworks himself. Nozomi frowns at this before drinking more sake. Akari looks over and asks, so what's the plan for tomorrow? I'm doing another protest, then I'll have to write down what to ask the kids. Nozomi mumbles before she goes to drink more sake. Oh, that reminds me. Rumi divulges an HPSC agent came up to me to ask if you wanted to publicly debate with the leader. Nozomi chokes on the sake and coughs harshly as her throat stings. Rumi pats Nozomi's back while Akari rushes to the mini fridge by Nozomi's desk and brings back water. Nozomi takes a moment to drink some water and wipe away her pained tears before looking at Rumi with wide eyes. They what? Why would they suggest that? And why want it to be a public debate? Akari questions. Nozomi huffs at this before concluding. They probably saw that I protested yesterday and see me as a threat. You're a threat to the status quo. All right, Rumi agrees. Media is currently in a frenzy over the fact that a quirkless woman owns a hero agency. I'm surprised you didn't get forced into an interview when you went to deliver the letter. Oh, you delivered the letter? Akari asks. Wait, you knew? Rumi looks at Akari in shock. You didn't. They look at Nozomi, who smiles awkwardly. Sorry. Rumi just rolls her eyes and mutters. Why do I bother with dorks who still can't remember to tell me anything? Because you love us, Akari teases. Nozomi grins and pushes said teasing. Yeah, you adore us too much. Shut up, both of you. Nozomi and Akari laugh while Rumi, who is pretending to be annoyed, cracks a smile. All right, but seriously, are you going to accept the debate? I suspect that it's not only going to be in front of top officials and pro heroes but also live streamed to the city, Rumi warns. Nozomi takes a moment to think before saying, if I don't accept it while they do see me as a threat to the status quo, everything leading up to now would be for nothing. Akari looks at the two before suggesting, can't you ask Hawks if they do see you in that manner? Oh yeah, let's ask the guy who's been working for and was trained by them for over a decade if they see me as a status quo threat. Asking Hawks that question would be admitting that I'm afraid. But I'm not, Nozomi states with determination. Right, Akari nods slowly before her expression turns solemn. Hey, you don't think they would make Hawks, nag at him? PSH. No way. I've noticed the way he becomes interested when I talk about Zomi, Rumi counters. Still, we shouldn't ignore the possibility. Nozomi mumbles before asking, did the agent say when they wanted the debate? Hold on to your horses because despite what we know, it doesn't make it less surprising somehow. Rumi maneuvers herself to face Nozomi entirely. They said tomorrow afternoon in the stadium. The audacity of those bastards. Oh, I'm so going to fucking pulverize them when I can, but first, I should take care of something before my time gets taken up tomorrow. By the time midnight comes around, Akari was fast asleep while Rumi and the employees have gone home. Nozomi locks the agency doors before walking away, having changed into an all-black attire while her hair was tied up in a bun. After walking for a few minutes, she pulls her hoodie over her head and walks into an alleyway. She continues to walk for what feels like hours before stopping in a different alleyway that was familiar to her. She pulls down her hoodie and looks around slowly. Where are you? She whispers, I know you're usually around these parts. She looks around some more and decides to walk ahead. She only takes a few steps before a blade is aimed at her. She raises her hands as the man she was looking for steps out of the shadows. Nozomi Fujiki, staying quietly, calls out the quirkless hero. Shizome Akaguro, the hero killer, she replies. How'd you know my name? I know a lot of things, Mr. Akaguro, but that's why I'm here. I need a favor from you. The woman who's taken the media by storm needs a favor from me of all people. You're lucky I respect you. Nozomi sighs in relief and puts down her hands as he puts away his blade. You do? Yes, I do. I've seen your protest about quirkless people needing more respect. You're a hero in your own regard. And All Might seems to respect you as well. I respect you using your power for good with a smile like he does. I'm winning at life. Seems too good to be true. And now I'm scared for the debate tomorrow because now this means something will crash shit. But I should worry about that after this. Thank you. Now, as for the favor. Hold it. He interrupts. How do you know my name? She sighs and starts to play with the drawstring of her hoodie as she explains. Dreams. I'm born quirkless and have done too many x-rays to count to see that I have 2 joints on my pinky toe. But I've had dreams when I was a kid that shows me events, a few of these events, such as the USJ incident and how the sports festival played out. When exactly as how the dreams played out, the dreams are also why I knew you would be in these parts of the city and what your name was. He stares at her intensely, causing her to sweat. She could tell that he was debating whether or not to believe her. Then tell me something that the public wouldn't know. Without missing a beat, she says, it was your confrontation with Knuckleduster that made you believe that people who became heroes for selfish reasons are the true problems of society. His eyes widen, making her smile. After a moment of silence, he whispers, you're more interesting than I thought. He nods slowly, accepting her words, before asking, okay, what's the favor? I want you to find this hidden place in the outskirts known as the Villain Factory. I had a dream about that place, where this villain and his mad scientist helper run experiments on people to make, well, villains. I want you to find the location and get your hands on any evidence that it exists. Once you give me that, I can report it to the heroes, where they'll get rid of it. Okay, I can do that. What's in it for me? Nozomi ponders for a moment before saying, I can give you All Might's autograph. Done. That's it. They immediately shake hands, which felt very surreal to her. She then notices a pair of glowing yellow eyes in the shadows. Just as he looks back to see what she was looking at, the eyes disappear. Get home safe, he says before pulling away, most likely to investigate. Wait, I have something else to say, Mr. Akaguro. Yui grunts and looks down, where she could swear he seemed embarrassed. Don't be so polite. What is it? Don't go after any heroes for a while. The younger brother of your latest victim will want revenge, and I don't want him or you to get hurt. You don't want me to get hurt, he points out with surprise in his voice. Nozomi just smiles at him before bowing politely and turning away as she pulls her hoodie over her head and continues to walk. She could sense his eyes on her. That was probably the first time he's been treated kindly for a while. He's a confused man, so I hope it doesn't confuse him too much. As soon as the following day arrived, Nozomi was spending her time practicing what to talk about during the debate. Zomi, I already ate. Akari. Zomi, the kids are here. Nozomi sets down her paper and sighs. Do I tell them you won't be able to train them? Akari asks. Nozomi shakes her head before saying, no, I'll go tell them myself. They'll take it well, right? You're going to what? The students, in fact, did not take it well. Surprisingly, Nozomi nods slowly with a sheepish smile, having told them that she was going to a public debate in about an hour. Wait, what? You're telling me I spent all day practicing my debating skills, and I barely trained them yesterday? What is this pacing? So I'm sorry, we're gonna have to train another day. Alright then, let's go, Bakugo says dismissively before turning to leave. Kiri grabs his arm and shakes his head disapprovingly. Not cool, bro. Bakugo huffs and stays in place as Momo walks closer to Nozomi. Do you need help getting ready, Ms. Fujiki? Pardon, do you need help? Momo reiterates, we should help you out since you took the time to make us new gadgets and costumes. It's only fair. Nozomi shakes her head as she replies, oh, no, you don't have to do anything. We insist, Ms. Fujiki, Ada states, prompting most of the students to nod. Well, thank you then. What do I need? Nozomi turns to Akari. Dress, makeup, hairstyled, the usual stuff. Nozomi facepalms. The one time I need that, I left all the stuff at home. Momo turns around and looks at her classmates. There's a store nearby that sells cheap makeup. We need eyeshadow, eyeliner, concealer, foundation, blush, and lipstick. Who can? I'll get them. Mina and Hagakure raise their hands. I'm paying for them. Kiri raises his hand. Don't you barely have enough for the bus fare? Bakugo calls out. Kiri puts his arm around Bakugo before saying, we'll pay for it. What? Actually, I think I should go too so that we can get the items faster, Deku suggests. And so Kaken doesn't have to use all of his pocket change. I'll come too, Ribbit, Tsuyu says while smiling at Nozomi. Me too, Ida proudly states. What about the dress? Nozomi asks. I'll make it, Momo says while she pulls a hairbrush from her chest. I can also help you with your hair. May I also help with your hair? I have to say, it looks quite soft. Aoyama compliments. And what will the rest of us do? Minta raises his hand. I don't know. Help me decide what to really say. It'd be nice to get a second opinion. Nozomi suggests if not, you can go home. Thank you for coming. Most of the students walk out of the agency to go home or get the makeup, leaving behind Momo, Aoyama, Uraraka, Jiru, Shoji, Minta, and, to Nozomi's surprise, Shoto. Let's go do this upstairs. I did not have meeting stain and getting a makeover from the kids on my bingo card, but I guess we're going with this. It took 45 minutes for the students to help Nozomi get ready. During that time, Nozomi wrote down what she was going to say after getting second opinions. What interested her during that time was Shoto's presence whenever she asked for opinions. Shoto typically nods along with whatever she or Deku said. The fact that he stayed instead of going home tells me that he probably feels safe here. Oh, my sweet baby boy. I'm really sorry if you're figuratively and literally hot. Dad reads my letter and visits the agency. With a lot of hands on deck, Nozomi's hair was brushed and half was used to make a bun shaped like a rose, courtesy of Aoyama in the store. Hagakure found blue hair clips, which she places along her silver stream. Her makeup, carefully done by Kiri and Mina, looked natural and enhanced her beauty. Her dress, made and adjusted by Momo while having suggestions from Shoji and unfortunately Minta, was a simple, off-the-shoulder light blue dress that fit perfectly, mainly due to the convenience of a measuring tape. Momo also took the time to make her low-rise white heels. Was it entirely perfect? No, they're teenagers on a time crunch still. Nozomi couldn't thank the students enough as Akari takes her outside to Rumi's car. She waves happily as they speed off to the stadium. You sure took your sweet time to get ready, Zomi. Rumi chastises. Do you have everything ready that won't sound stupid enough to get you killed? I am ready. I even asked for second opinions from the kids. I'm scared, Akari admits while she was holding onto Nozomi's hand tightly. If anyone should be scared, it's me, Nozomi says as the fear was starting to set in. Exactly. I'm scared for you. I mean, you're going to publicly debate with the leader of the Hero Public Safety Commission herself. Akari hugs Nozomi as she takes deep breaths. Nozomi could even see the way Rumi was gripping the steering wheel. The cool, fearless bunny hero was looking at her friend from the rear view mirror as if it was going to be the last time they would see each other. Nozomi was already regretting telling the two what really happened with Lady Nagant, because even Akari was looking at her the same way. They doubted that Hawks would be asked to do something to Nozomi, but it didn't stop them making those looks, which made Nozomi even more afraid. He'll give me a quick and easy death if it ever happens. Aw man, if I die, I'll never get to give post-Epiphany and G a smooch. Okay, I should really focus. The three make it to the stadium, where there are already a lot of people outside. Hurry, 7 minutes. Rumi drags Akari and Nozomi inside the stadium, pushing through citizens and reporters. They make in, where most of the seats were already taken up by a couple of citizens, officials, reporters, and heroes. Okay, you should go where the citizens are. Rumi tells Akari. As for you, Zomi. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you all for coming. The lights dim. They look on stage, seeing Madam President stand there with a mic. Nozomi gestures for her friends to go, making them stare at her with wide eyes. I am so glad that you all made it here today for this event today. We're here because a rising star in our midst asked to debate some topics with me. Rumi huffs while she and Akari glare at the president for that line. Nozomi takes a deep breath before gesturing for the two to go. They give Nozomi worried looks before walking away. However, it seems that she hasn't arrived, so I am here, Nozomi calls out. With her heels clacking against the floor, people turn to watch as a spotlight shines on her. Nozomi walks down the aisle with her head held high while her hands were behind her back, making her look confident yet formal. Whispers spark in the crowd, which she could hear were mostly of surprise at how young she was. She looks around before politely waving at a news camera as she nears the front. She could see Madam President watching her with a polite smile. However, Nozomi's attention was on the heroes to her right. She was specifically looking at him. Looking between the smiling All Might and Hawks, Endeavor was looking at her, feeling a boost of confidence despite wanting to scream. Nozomi gets on the stage and is handed a microphone. Good afternoon, Madam. I find it rude that you were going to start without me. I mean no disrespect, Ms. Fujiki. Welcome. She claps, making everyone else in the crowd do the same. Nozomi could feel her heart skip a beat as she looks out at the crowd. Time seems to slow in her perspective as she goes to shake hands with the president of the Hero Public Safety Commission. This is it. I didn't expect this to happen already, but it's happening. I'm either going to show this lady who's boss or... When they shake hands, Nozomi feels how firm Madam's grip was. I'm getting the wrong end of a gun or feather. Ms. Fujiki, I have to congratulate you personally for getting the chance to own a hero agency. After all, it's very uncommon for a non-hero, let alone a quirkless woman such as yourself, to get one. Please tell us how it's been going. Is this going to be a debate or an interview? No, wait, this is just to get me to loosen up. I'm on to you. It's been going wonderfully. I already gave a lesson to class 1 from UA. Did you now? Madam seemed surprised, but Nozomi couldn't tell if it was genuine or not. I also heard how you were ordering a lot of components from the support companies who make not only hero costumes but gadgets too. Why is that? I used them to make gadgets with the help of another student from UA, a girl from class 1H. I also created new costumes for most of the students. Really? But why would you put in so much effort when our companies worked hard to create suitable costumes for these students? It seems pointless. Oh, you want to throw shade? I can throw it back. The shade, I know they did, but it doesn't mean they're entirely perfect. You see, I've watched the sports festival and I was very impressed with their skills. However, when I visited the company that made their costumes, I also saw what the students wanted out of their costumes, so I combined what I saw at the sports festival with what they wanted from their hero costumes, and I acted accordingly. Now they have costumes and gadgets that not only help them use their quirk efficiently, they're also more practical and comfortable. Seriously, a girl wanted her costume to not be tight, yet the company didn't do what she asked. So is it really suitable? Murmurs spark in the crowd as Madam nods slowly. Alright then, well, do they truly like your new costumes and gadgets? I can assure you that they do. I gave them a lesson soon after so that they'll be able to use their new gadgets. From what I've seen, they like them in my agency. Madam nods again before walking closer and saying, would the students want to intern for someone who protested outside of her agency? Why would you make your image of a protester? What do you have against protesters, madam? Nozomi challenges under politeness. I didn't say anything wrong. I was just protesting for better respect to quirkless people such as my friend and myself. And that's an honorable protest to do. But didn't you ever think that talking about such subjects so openly would make citizens uncomfortable? They should feel uncomfortable. It's likely that many of them have discriminated against quirkless individuals without even meaning to. We also can't just treat it as okay because of how common it is. Did everyone forget that back when quirks first appeared, it was the people with quirks that got discriminated? From the way many were looking at her, it seems that they did forget. Furthermore, this discrimination doesn't only affect quirkless individuals. What about the people with mutant quirks who are bullied for their appearance? What about the people who are told that they're going to become villains because of their quirk? Ms. Fujiki, while I understand your concern with mutant quirks, I don't agree with your assertion of villain quirks. You forget that quirks can heavily affect how a person acts, Madam asserts, prompting a few nods from the audience. I did not forget that. However, from what you're saying, you're okay with children being told that they'll become villains. You're okay with children losing the love of their parents or even their home because they get their quirk and it's considered a villain quirk. You're forgetting that these children have the potential to become heroes, such as this boy in UA who's working hard to become a hero despite their quirk giving them the ability to mind control others. This boy was lucky to have parents that didn't shame him, but the same isn't said for many children around the world. So you're saying that there aren't villains born every day? I'm saying that while nature can influence a child, nurture plays an important factor in how that child turns out. We can't shame people for something they didn't ask to be born with, and we also shouldn't tell them to pretend to be normal because that's not who they are. Nozomi steps closer to Madam, looking intensely into her, the older woman's eyes. The same can be said for adult villains now. Yes, there are truly despicable people out there, but there are also people who are hurt by others because of their quirks. So tell me, Madam President, why do we act as if the world is black and white when it isn't like that? This is a world of heroes. Ms. Fujiki, Madam reiterates, heroes save the day from villains, who are then locked away from their crimes. That's the way the world works. Is that what you told Lady Nagant when you sent her to Tartarus? The crowd gasped and murmured at this while Nozomi's heart was beating excessively. In her mind she didn't show fear or nervousness as she stares defiantly at the president before she could refute Nozomi's words. Nozomi turns to the crowd. Everyone, I ask that you open your hearts for second chances. If someone commits a crime, ask them why they did it. Did they do it because they wanted to, for fun, or because no one was there for them when everyone was telling them that they'll be evil even if their nature says otherwise? And what about the children out there who are bullied for looking different, having a so-called villain quirk, or not having a quirk in the first place? What about the people who are still hurting inside for the discrimination they faced? There's evil out there, yes, but you have to remember that not every villain wanted to be in that position in the first place. She looks around before looking down at the news cameras. I hear you out there. I can see where you're coming from. You have the capabilities to be a hero in your own way. You can be a hero too. I believe in you. She then looks at the crowd again as passionate tears sting her eyes. So please, may you all put in the effort to give a little more kindness to the world. Can you all think about the person you're going to sentence and wonder how they got there before you throw them away without a care? Can you all think about how you would feel if you were shamed for how you look, what you've got, or what you lack? Nozomi gives a bow and closes her eyes. Can we all be kinder to those who need it? Silence is spread throughout the stadium as Nozomi holds her breath after what felt like forever. She opens her eyes when she hears clapping. She looks up, expecting it to be Rumi or Akari, but it was All Might, giving her a standing ovation. Rumi was next, beaming at her best friend one by one. More heroes stand up to clap for her. To her joy, Endeavor was one of the first ones eventually. The entire stadium was clapping for her. Nozomi smiles widely as the spotlight beams on her while time slows from her perspective again. I've made my mark, all eyes are on me now. Her thoughts pause as she remembers the cameras and that her words were broadcasted to the entire city. She imagines an old bar with a couple of villains, then a masked man, then a figure hooked up to life support machine. All eyes are on me. Madam President watches Nozomi as she's greeted by reporters while Nozomi answers their questions with a smile. Hawk stands next to his boss. Well, madam, like her or not, Fujiki's got style. Does she have a spy? Madam mutters, or am I being paranoid? No, I can't risk anything. I work too hard to let everything go to waste. You okay there? He asks. Hawks, I have a new task for you. What is it, boss lady? Her eyes remain on Nozomi as she states, keep in close touch with Fujiki. Find out how much she really knows. If she knows more than she should, well, all of this attention on a young woman would be quite stressful, right? Madam walks away with her mind now at ease. Meanwhile, Hawks had his lips thinned as he eyes Nozomi, who now had Rumi and Akari by her side. Guilt crosses his face for a moment before he puts on a charming smile and walks closer. And that's why he's my favorite hero, Nozomi concludes. Hey, ladies, what were you all talking about? Hawks immediately puts his arm around Nozomi's shoulders, making a few reporters squeal. Is there something between you two? The other day, people saw you carrying Nozomi, Hawks, a reporter asks. Nozomi immediately nudges his arm off before explaining. No, we just met yesterday. Nothing between us when we only had one conversation. I'm willing to have more conversations with you any day at any time, especially while you're wearing this nice dress, he coos before winking. Flattering. I'll have to sleep on it. Nice seeing you, but excuse me, Nozomi coolly states. She takes Akari and Rumi's hands before walking away. It takes the trio a while to get back to the car, but as soon as they got in, Akari squeals in the backseat. He was flirting. Hawks, the Hawks, flirted with you. Akari cheers as she shakes Nozomi. He totally wants you. Hold your horses. Rumi looks back at them. Remember who he's working for? Oh yeah, Akari slumps back. Speaking of which, Nozomi rests against her seat with her hand over her chest. Holy shit, I can't believe I just did that. You really put the president in her place though with the way she was looking at you. I'm actually worried that she told the bird to do something to you. They stay silent as Rumi drives away from the stadium. He seems to like you though, Nozomi, Akari states with a hopeful tone. Rumi sighs before saying, as much as I like the bird, you can't really tell what he's thinking about. For your sake, I don't think you should talk to him. She looks at Nozomi with the rearview mirror just as Nozomi finishes typing a message to Hawks. How about I do anyways? In my defense, I'm gonna try to give him therapy before he tries to off me. Wish me luck when it happens. The following day, there was no school, so Nozomi expected the students to come. However, because of her very public debate and passionate speech yesterday, more students than usual came. Slight chaos ensued due to tensions from the sports festival before Nozomi could quell the flames. After she and Akari swiftly made a schedule of when to train them, the students were given a usual lesson in teamwork. I'm gonna be honest, as interesting as a lot of Class 1B is, I blanked out for most of it because Horikoshi added way too many characters in this damn series. However, Nozomi noticed something off during the lesson. Shoto was usually attentive to what she has to say, but he didn't this time. She expected him to nod along with whatever wise words she spewed out like he did yesterday, but he didn't bother to do so. Worry was filling her mind as she waves goodbye to the students after the long lesson. Todoroki, can you stay behind for a moment? She blurts out. He didn't turn around and was still walking to the door, only for Deku to stop him. Bakugo looks back at Nozomi as Deku whispers something to Shoto. Shoto reluctantly turns around while the others leave. Nozomi gestures for Shoto to follow her, leading him up to the 7th floor into her office. They walk past the workbench and sewing machine on one side as well as the couch and few mannequins on the other to her desk. She sits down and gestures for him to sit in front of her, which he does. Is something on your mind, Shoto? His eyes weren't on her. She looks and sees that he was staring at her Endeavor plush, which was facing her so he couldn't see the scar she sewed on. Still, fear strikes her heart as he faces her with a glare. You admire my father. Act natural, don't look like you're going to shit yourself. Yes, I do. Todoroki, why are you looking at me like that? He gets up. He's not the hero you think he is, far from it, Ms. Fujiki. Then help me understand. He wouldn't. He turns around, making her stand up. Todoroki, if he comes here, I'm not coming back for another lesson, Ms. Fujiki. Just tell me why. He continues to walk, aiming to leave. Her heart sinks as her mind races. Wait, why is he so hurt by this? He seemed to have felt safe here, so did he take my interview personally? Or is it? Her eyes widen. His mother, do I remind him of her before she? Todoroki, she calls out, which doesn't stop him. No, he can't leave. I have to help him. Without him, Endeavor won't know. No, this isn't about that bastard. This is about his son in front of me. Just as Shoto goes to open the door, Nozomi could no longer hold back her word vomit. Taoya is alive. Shoto stops in place slowly, He turns once more to look at Nozomi, who is covering her mouth with her hands. What? Nozomi slowly lets out a breath before opening her drawer and pulling out her dream journal. I know, she quietly admits as she opens to the middle of the journal. I know why you hate your father. He slowly walks closer. As she turns the journal around, he sees a lot of writing. But what really catches his attention are the drawings. One of them is of him as a child, where he was crying while his bastard of a father was holding onto his wrist. Shoto stares at this before he slowly looks up at Nozomi. How? Nozomi takes a deep breath before explaining the dream story for the third time afterward. The two remain silent. Why didn't you say anything? Shoto was staring at her with a look of genuine betrayal. Why didn't you save me, Ms. Fujiki? You could have taken me away from that place. What was I supposed to do, Todoroki? I was 7 when I had dreams about your family. It was your father's word against some random quirkless girl. Besides, you weren't even born yet. He sits down. As he starts to breathe heavily, he flips a page, seeing another memory drawn. Then why do you like him? He asks as he looks up at her. Guilt makes tears sting her eyes as she imagines him as a child sitting there, looking up at her while feeling betrayed. Why do you want him to join your agency when you know what he did to me? Nozomi flips the pages until she stops on a certain one that showed a sketch of Endeavor sitting by himself in a room. I'm not a fan of what he did. In fact, I hate him the way he is now. I'm a fan of who he becomes. She points to what she wrote next to the sketch, prompting him to read it. He has an epiphany. He reads out after a moment. He shakes his head in disbelief and says, "No, are you sure?" I'm sure. I'm fond of people realizing what they did wrong and working hard to repent for their actions. He doesn't ask for your forgiveness either, Todoroki. And he genuinely wants to change, just not right now because All Might hasn't suddenly retired yet. He nods slowly as he tries to take everything, and Nozomi goes to her mini fridge and takes out a bottle of water. I know this is a lot to take in. Then what about Talia? If he's alive, then where is he? I can't tell you. She walks back to him and hands him the water, which he takes. Why not? Let's just say that he's very, very angry with your father just as much as you are. He doesn't want to come back to you and your family. She looks at the journal and closes it, noticing that he was eyeing it. Not yet anyways. Shoto sighs before taking a sip of water. Silence looms over the two for a moment. What's going to happen if he does join your agency, Ms. Fujiki? I'll do my best to keep you away from him. I'll also make sure you're not alone with him. I know he's not stupid enough to hurt his son in a public place. But you can never be too careful with a man like him. He's not a man, he mutters. She nods. You're right. He's far from the man I adore. That's so far away in the future. He's nothing but a selfish monster at this time. For now, the best I can do is to keep you safe. She reaches out to him, causing him to flinch slowly but gently. She puts her hand on his hand and lightly caresses his hair. He shudders as his eyes widen. What are you doing? Showing that I care. Hey, if you don't want to go back home right now, you can always stay here in your dorm room. I can even make you your favorite meals. He looks up at her again, this time with interest. You can make soba. She chuckles and nods. Of course I can. She gestures him to stand up, which he does with confusion. She then pulls him into a hug. I know this is a sudden thing for me to do, but I care for you. I really do. He lets out a whimper before hugging her tightly as she caresses his back. A thought pops into her mind. Wait for me outside the office while I make a phone call? Okay. Then I can go make you some soba. It takes him a moment before he pulls away. Thank you, Ms. Fujiki. As soon as he walks away, Nozomi goes to her work phone and puts in a certain number. She hears 2 rings before the call goes through. Hi, is this Principal Nezu? I would like to set up a meeting with you and your staff. As the sun slowly sets in the horizon, Nozomi sits next to Shoto as the two eat soba. She waited for him to take the first bite before she started to eat, a small gesture to further emphasize how much she cares. It's good, Ms. Fujiki. Thank you. I knew it was your favorite because of the dreams. So I made sure to practice making it during my college years. I'll be happy to make you as much soba as you want. Todoroki. Oh wait, would you prefer me to call you Shoto? He nods before slurping up more noodles. She smiles, admiring how at peace he looked. Why do you have a kitchen next to your office, Ms. Fujiki? My secretary, Akari, lives here. I wanted to save on gas prices, plus I didn't want us to use a lot of cash for the bus fare. So he nods again. Eat slowly, Shoto. I don't want you to get a tummy ache or to choke accidentally. Is there more? Nozomi blinks a few times to realize that he had already finished his bowl. She glances at the stove, where she left the mostly empty pot, before sliding her bowl to him. Here you go. But you barely touched it. It's okay, Shoto. I can always make myself a treat later. She pats his head before standing up and going to the stove. She hums to herself as she washes the dishes while Shoto stares at her. Ms. Fujiki, do I tell my brother, sister, and mom about Talia? She thinks for a moment before saying, no, I should be the one to tell them. Of course, your father isn't going to find out because, well, let's just say that he's not in the right headspace to find out his son is alive. Nozomi wipes her hands dry on a small towel before turning around and leaning back against the counter. Believe it or not, he didn't believe that Tauya was dead at first. He spent a few days searching for him before it eventually set in and became much worse. Much worse. He was always terrible. Nozomi walks closer. Well, you have to understand that the father you saw growing up was very different from the father Tauya saw. It's a shame. Really, because Tauya is so angry at what happened that he believes his father didn't care for him at all. What was Tauya like? Shoto asks. Nozomi sits next to him again as she hums. He was silly in a way. He worked very hard to have your father's attention because they were quite close, but then. Nozomi shakes her head before smiling at Shoto. Don't think about it too much. You can try asking your siblings about it when you have the time. Okay. When will you tell them about Tauya? I don't know. I'll have to see if I have any free time in the future. Shoto opens his mouth to say more, only to close it. Nozomi watches him eat as her mind wanders to what she had set for tomorrow. Do you have Midoriya's number? He hums once in response. Can you text him and ask if he could do me a favor? The following afternoon, Nozomi takes a deep breath before she steps out of her car with a book bag over her shoulder. She smiles and greets students as they walk past each other before she arrives to the front of UA High. Ms. Fujiki. Kiri runs over with Denki, Mina, and Siro. Good afternoon. Deku told us that you're going to have a meeting with the staff. What are you going to talk about with them? Mina asks. Does this mean no training today? Siro wonders. Aw man, I was looking forward to trying something new. Denki mumbles. She raises her hands and explains. Hey, relax. You all can still go to the agency and train there. Akari. Ms. Watanabe will be glad to get the simulation room up and running for you all. Or if you just want to use the gym, you can. They grin at each other. Thanks, Ms. Fujiki. Stay manly during the meeting. Kiri says encouragingly. I will. She walks past them towards UA. As she approaches it, she walks past Deku, who gives her a nervous smile. She then sees Bakugo leaning by the entrance with a scowl on his face. There you are, Fujiki. I was about to leave. He grunts. Why the hell did you get Deku to tell me to stay behind? Because I want you to be there during my meeting with the staff. The fuck? Why me when I could be training by now? It's because I don't want you to be kidnapped. She raises her finger to stop him from retorting. Now come on, it's about to start. As she walks away from him, she could hear him throw a little tantrum before following her. She pretended to not hear him muttering insults about her, how she shouldn't doubt him, and that she doesn't understand him. After some time, they arrive at the meeting room, where she knocks on the door before entering. Nozomi Fujiki. Welcome, Principal Nezu calls out. And you brought a student along. He'll be here for a good part of the meeting. Don't mind him. It's very nice to meet you all, she says. She looks around the room to give the rest of the staff a smile, noting a lack of All Might. The one she had particular interest with was Aizawa. While she expected him to be taking a nap or looking tired, she notices how even he had interest. They all had interest in her expressions. Nezu gives a friendly smile and gestures for her and Bakugo to sit. They do, with Nozomi sitting up while Bakugo was slouching with his arms crossed. Ha, that's kinda cute in a motherly sort of manner. Because I'm not a pedo, you scoundrels. I have to say, Fujiki, you gave a wonderful speech yesterday. Want some tea? Oh, I'd love some. Does he want some too? She looks at the sulking Bakugo, then shakes her head. So tell us the reason for this meeting. Ms. Fujiki, you know, I was going to set up a meeting myself to talk about the laws that could pass to help make quirk discrimination less common. Nezu laughs. Well, first let's deal with an issue I have with this school and the sports festival. Why did you put him in chains? This catches the staff and Bakugo off guard. I can explain this. Midnight chimes in. Ms. Fujiki. That boy continued to fight even when we told him to stop. Frankly, if we didn't put him in chains, he could have seriously hurt the other one. And you didn't think to put him in a room somewhere to calm down first before you gave the medals. Did none of you think of how humiliating it is to be chained up like a villain in front of the country? She looks at Bakugo with concern, which only makes him huff. I wasn't humiliated. Don't deny it. You're just a boy with feelings he can't control. So you act out you're going to look at me in the eye and say that under all of that anger, you didn't feel humiliated in that position. You didn't feel any fear from being reminded of the sludge villain that covered your mouth the same way the muzzle did. For a moment, she swears that his hardened expression softens for a moment before he rolls his eyes and turns away. She sighs before reaching into her book bag. Plus, I'm here to let you know that your decision to muzzle him has terrible consequences. She slams her dream journal onto a table before explaining her dream lie and showing them the old pages of the sports festival as proof. After making sure they believed her, she flips to the pages about Bakugo's kidnapping. This is what happens. She shows the shocked staff members the pages. Your decision to chain him up made the league believe that he was capable of being a villain, leading to near deaths and a traumatic experience for him for all future field trips. I advise you all to have extra security to make sure that he and the rest of the students remain safe. It takes a minute for the information to set in before Nezu nods. Good, now, just a moment please. She stands up and gestures for Bakugo to do the same. She leads him outside of the room with a small smile. You'll be safe now. Bakugo, you can always walk home or wait for the next bus, of course. Considering the situation, I prefer to drive you home, but that's your decision. He stares at her before leaning against the wall with a scowl. Just don't take too long. She nods before closing the door and sitting back down. Now, for another issue. She takes a sip of tea before sighing. Yue is terrible in protecting the kids. A few open their mouths to protest. Only for Nezu to speak first. Elaborate, Ms. Fujiki. Aside from the League being able to kidnap Bakugo during a field trip without a hitch, I want you all to tell me, why did Oboro Shirakumo die? From the corner of her eye, Aizawa and Hisashi look at each other. Who? Nezu tilts his head to the side. Oboro Shirakumo was a student here over 10 years ago. He was in his second year and was good friends with two heroes here. She glances at the two before continuing. However, while he was doing his hero work studies, he was killed during a villain attack. Now can any of you answer the question, why did Oboro Shirakumo die? While they look at each other silently, they didn't notice that the door wasn't fully closed. Bakugo stares at the door as Nozomi's words sink in. A student died. He whispers to himself with wide eyes and disbelief in his voice. Why didn't any of us know about that? The meeting continues on. No, she looks around. Then I'll answer it. Oboro died because this school neglects the fact that despite training to be a hero, they're still teenagers. He didn't even get to graduate from this school. And he died at such a young age because this school didn't factor in the fact that he was just a boy. Hisashi lets out a whimper and covers his mouth, prompting Aizawa to put his hand on his friend's shoulder. Nozomi immediately looks at them and reassures, it wasn't your fault, Present Mike. None of it was. Neither was it yours, Eraserhead. Then tell us how it was the school's fault. Nezu inquires, ignoring how everyone else seemed a bit offended or concerned. Personally, I'm doing it right by having 1-on-1B experience simulations of what they could see on the field there in their first year. So it's the safer option. However, I believe that second year should have a mix of simulation and real-world experience, though for their real-world experience, they should always be with an experienced hero and never on their own in their third year. That's when they should be on their own. I'm saying that you should change the way we train students. You intend on training them on your own, Miss Fujiki? Vlad inquires while leaning forward. I'm not against having you all by my side when I train the students. Me offering them to intern in my agency is just extra tutoring really, but it would be nice to have a simulation room here at the school to train them on the dangers of the hero world without putting them in actual danger. They look at one another before Aizawa sighs. With all due respect, we can't do that. The students need real heroes to train them, not a civilian with no experience, he states bluntly. Come on, your students must have told you that I've been teaching them well. They did tell me about your scenario lessons, but they're not effective. You're the one in control of the simulation, so you can save them from messing up. The field doesn't give any second chances like you do. But they're teenagers. Eraserhead, they might as well make mistakes in a safe environment rather than in the real world. Furthermore, Aizawa cuts her off. I believe I've figured you out. Ms. Fujiki, you had these dreams that predict the future of these students, so you feel obligated to help them, right? However, you're not a hero. You may have had these dreams of the students experiencing a tragedy such as the kidnapping, but you don't have any actual experience. You're not there yourself in the face of danger. While I do admire your strive for their safety, your lessons lack reality. I've reread and rewatched everything in my past life because of my love for this series, but I've memorized their development and lessons that I can give to them safely. But I'm not a hero. I'm saving them from villains and themselves. You don't get it. Nozomi couldn't stop herself before she yells. You don't get to talk about valuing their safety when you've put them in danger by letting them become child soldiers when they're still in their first year. Everyone else's eyes widen at this as she stands up. You're willing to sacrifice children for the sake of protecting the city. If anyone isn't a hero, it's you, Eraserhead. I'm the one who's letting them be kids while you're the one making them fight to their deaths. Nozomi glares at him before taking a deep breath and sitting down. Shit, I'm sorry. She sighs before explaining. I don't want any of them to die in my dreams. I see the way you train them and I admire you as a person, as a hero, and as a teacher, but letting them fight a battle that the adults should handle. She looks at Aizawa with a frown. I don't agree with it in the slightest, even if it is for the sake of the city. She puts her dream journal back in her bag before looking at Nezu. I'm really sorry for my outburst, Principal Nezu. Because of these dreams, I feel really attached to these students, so please consider the idea I've discussed to make sure that there's no second Oboro. Nezu stares at her for a moment before nodding. She stands up, gives a bow, and walks to the door. She notices that it wasn't fully closed when she opens it, seeing Bakugo leaning against the wall. Did you hear me yelling? No, I was listening to music, he claims while holding up his earphones. She nods slowly while looking at him suspiciously. Noticing his tone not being genuine, she closes the door behind her before gesturing him to follow her. They walk in silence through the halls of UA as they make their way outside. When they got into her car, she sighs again. Can't believe that happened, she mutters before looking at him. You okay? Why are you so set on helping us? You seem to want to help me especially. You're the one at risk at being kidnapped, remember? And she thinks for a moment as she starts the car. I got really attached to you all because of my dreams. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the way you changed throughout my dreams, but you're my favorite student. She taps her fingernails against the steering wheel as she waits for his reaction. She looks at him. Seeing him looking out the window, however, she could faintly see his reflection, where she notices embarrassment. She chuckles. Come on, I want to listen to the kind of music you like. We can jam out while I take you home. I can also buy you some food if you want anything. I'm good, Miss Fujiki. As he takes out his phone and attempts to connect it to her car, she looks forward before suddenly turning to him again. Miss Fujiki. A smile rises to her face when she realizes, prompting him to roll his eyes. I will get out of this car if you don't wipe that stupid smile off your face. Okay. Aizawa didn't get much sleep that night when he was walking into UA. His expression was a mix of exhaustion, anger, and grief. He didn't expect old wounds to be opened against his will. But the woman that did it was unpredictable from what he saw. He stops in the middle of the path leading to the door and looks to the side. Seeing something new, his eyes widen. Seeing a framed picture of Aburo on a bench with flowers around it, he approaches it slowly. Seeing his old friend smiling in the old picture with his fists clenched, he enters the school. He immediately headed to the principal's office, where he enters without knocking. Good morning, Eraserhead. Nezu greets. Why is there a memorial for Aburo in front of the school? Oh, that. I saw a few of your students set it up earlier before they all left. Flowers. It's very sweet, isn't it? Why students? I think that boy from the meeting overheard Ms. Fujiki mention him. I didn't expect him to be so sentimental. He laughs. Aizawa stays silent as he turns and leaves the office. He heads to his class, where he could see his students discussing amongst each other with worried expressions. When he enters, they immediately go silent. Whose idea was it to set up the memorial? They all turn to Bakugo, who was looking out the window. You all should take it down when school ends. Aburo is long gone, and his family wouldn't want a reminder of what happened. Principal Nezu said it was okay for us to make the memorial, but Mr. Aizawa, wasn't he your friend? Deku points out with surprise on his face. Aizawa falters before sternly asking, how did you know? Deku looks at his peers before he takes out his phone. After a moment, he shows Aizawa a video sent to him by an unknown number. When Aizawa presses play, the video shows complete darkness before. Aburo died because this school neglects the fact that despite training to be a hero, they're still teenagers. Nozomi's muffled voice plays out, making his eyes widen. He didn't even get to graduate from this school, and he died at such a young age because this school didn't factor in the fact that he was just a boy. Aizawa immediately pauses the video before looking at Bakugo. Why did you record the meeting? Hey, I didn't record anything. He denies before holding up his phone and showing the video sent by the unknown number. Besides, I got sent the video too. I wasn't even paying attention to the dumb meeting in the first place because I was listening to music. Aizawa snatches Bakugo's phone and tries to call the number, only for it to not go through. We already tried that, Mr. Aizawa. Momo says we also tried sending a message back, but nothing would send. Aizawa breathes heavily as he places Bakugo's phone on his desk. Are you okay? Deku asks. He takes a deep breath before nodding. I'm fine. Let's start with the lesson for today. In her office, Nozomi swirls her seat before signing another paper. This is so dumb, she mumbles. Worst part of the day is waiting for my favorite part to happen. As if right on cue, her phone dings. She quickly checks it, seeing a message from a contact she named Pomeranian. Pomeranian. A lot of people left flowers for Aburo. Pomeranian. The video ended up spreading to the rest of the school. Nozomi. That's a good thing. That means more people will know about how the school and its teachers are. Pomeranian. We're still getting a lesson today, right? Nozomi. It's going to be fun, I promise. Outside of the school, Bakugo scoffs at the message before putting away his phone. He looks around, seeing a few third-year students. Paying respects to the Aburo memorial, he also sees Aizawa. Walking away with his head down, he gets off the bench and glares at the school. Assholes, he mutters before turning away. Why would they cover up what happened? As he walks, his scowl slowly turns into a smirk as he eyes Nozomi's agency in the distance there. Nozomi was looking out the window with a wide smile. This is great. I got to call out the school. And Bakugo will be safe from being kidnapped. Then he won't blame himself for All Might retiring. Her smile fades instantly. All Might retiring. She looks at her Endeavor plush with wide eyes. If Bakugo doesn't get kidnapped, All Might wouldn't have to go all out to save him and end up revealing his weakened form. If All Might doesn't show his weakened form, Enji isn't going to get his epiphany. She covers her face and groans. His repentance arc. He's not going to try repenting for his actions if he doesn't ever realize that he was terrible for all these years. Sure, there's the possibility that Bakugo could still get kidnapped since Kirigiri is there. But there's the possibility that they never get their hands on Bakugo. There's also the possibility of Endeavor challenging All Might to a fight if something pushes his ego. Sure, All Might could put his all to winning, but in his state, he could end up losing, and Endeavor is going to remain an Endeavor for everyone. I told Shoto his father would change. I'm going to ruin his trust if that doesn't happen. FRK. What have I done? She stands up and paces around her office as her mind races. How is it going to happen now? Nozomi's worries didn't quell by the time one arrived for their usual lesson, however. She manages to push a friendly smile as she greets them on the first floor. Alright, kids, I have something planned today, so while you all work hard in doing some exercise in the gym, I'm going to talk to each of you individually outside so that we can discuss possible upgrades to your costumes and what you all want to do in future lessons, as well as maybe some personal issues you may be having. After all, the state of the mind can affect the work afterward. I can make you all some late lunch, early dinner. The students look at one another excitedly at this. Shoto can vouch that I cook well, am I right? They look at him in surprise at the first name basis while he nods along with her words. Of course, since this is a big crowd, I'll need some helping hands. Nozomi takes one look at them before pointing back. Yugu, Sato, and Tsuyu can help me out since they seem to be the best cooks. However, I think Ada and Momo can help out too. Of course, the meal is coming after the workout and talk. Don't worry, I have suitable gym clothes in the lockers. She smiles at them as they thank her and head to the stairs. Oh, nearly forgot. Ada turns around and hands her a small, dirty box. This was outside of your agency, Ms. Fujiki. However, it has no address attached to it, so we checked if it was a bomb or something poisonous. We can confirm that it's safe for you to handle, Ms. Fujiki. Thank you, Ada. You're so kind. You're going to be such a great hero. I'm sure your brother will be proud. His eyes widen before he grins and bows low. I will take your words to heart. She giggles. I know you will now go on and catch up with your classmates. Ada hurries away as she looks down at the package. She looks around, seeing that the employee at the front desk was occupied while she knows that Akari is on the 4th floor setting up the protein shakes they prepared. She opens the small box to see a dagger and a few folded papers with a grin. She hurries to the elevator to go to her office. As soon as she gets there, she rushes to her desk and presses a button underneath. The button immediately turns off the security camera in her office while automatically shutting the blinds and locking the door. As off for the privacy button, she dumps the box's contents onto her desk. She eyes the dagger with interest. Noting it to be the same blade pulled against her days prior, she unfolds one paper, seeing an address hastily written down. The next paper was ripped from somewhere. Day 394. 131 has passed away from the body, being unable to handle the quirks given. 134 shows stable progress. She reads out before putting the paper down in disgust. That monster even writes terribly like a doctor would. She then looks at the final paper, where there is a time hastily written. She looks at the clock right as it hits the exact time on the paper. Her work phone rings, which she answers immediately. Mr. Akaguro, will you stop being polite? His gruff voice responds. Respectfully, no. Nozomi coos as she sits down. So how come you wanted to call? I merely wanted to see if you received the package with no trouble. No trouble at all. What's with the dagger? There's silence for a moment before she hears him claim, protection. You're quirkless, so you need it for if you run into danger. She chuckles. You're so kind. You know I'm far from kind. Don't take it personally. I'm just doing it for the autograph, which you'll get soon. I promise. Do you want me to leave it somewhere or do you want to come pick it up? Did you forget my reputation? Right, honestly. I do wish you're able to walk around and not worry about getting arrested. Yeah, a lot of people like you, but oh, you know, I'm a hero killer, he bluntly states. Yep, so I guess I'll keep dreaming. Well, I have to admit that I do admire that thought. Your speech was beautiful, Mr. Akaguro. She couldn't help but make an amused smile from the silence. I have to go now. Come on, admit that you respect me already, Akaguro. Instead of answering, he hangs up. She makes a dramatic sound of offense before scoffing. Well, that was rude. She shakes her head with a laugh before setting down the phone. She puts the paper and dagger into the bottom drawer of her desk before locking it after tossing away the box. She grabs a pen and a notebook laying on her desk before leaving her office. When she arrives on the 4th floor, she sees the students working out in the gym. Akari was also inside, yelling out encouragement while clapping. A few students notice Nozomi and wave at her, prompting her to wave back. All right, time to confront the traitor. As she calls out students out of the gym individually, her heartbeat was slowly rising when she finally makes it to him. Her heart was beating in her head. Madam Fujiki, I'm glad it's my turn. Good afternoon. Aoyama, so do you have anything to say about your costume? Yes, I do, madam. I know you said that capes are impractical, he says while doing air quotations, but I wish I could have kept my cape. I'm not giving your cape back because as cool as it looks, it's not safe. Sweetie, however, I can make your cloak more shiny to bounce your quirk off of. Oh yes, you're so clever, madam. He laughs haughtily, which makes her heart ache. Yes, so any lesson ideas? I'm afraid all of this exercise has made me unable to think of anything, but I'll be sure to tell you when I get one. Good, but don't forget to take breaks now. She takes a deep breath. Is there anything on your mind? Anything you want to talk about? No, madam, everything is perfectly fine, he says with a smile. Before she could stop herself, she retorts, I know you're not fine. He stares at her for a moment before laughing. Madam, you jokester you. Of course I'm. She puts her hand on his shoulder and whispers, I know your secret. Any haughtiness on his face immediately turns into fear. Noticing a few students watching through the window, Nozomi turns herself and Aoyama away from their view. Don't worry, I'm not going to tell your teacher, your classmates, and the police. I don't know what you're. Cut it out, Aoyama, I know that you're working for All for One. He whimpers and looks at the ground. As soon as she puts her arm around him, he cracks. Okay, I admit it. I'm a traitor. Mon Mammon and Papa, they were ashamed of my quirkless state, so they brought me to him. But now we're in his debt and I have to be a spy or else he's going to. It's okay. She hugs him tightly with him facing away from the window. He cries profusely on her shoulder. What do you think happened? Will he be okay? Uraraka wonders while looking out the window. Deku looks at them knowingly before saying, he'll be fine. Let's just focus on what we're doing. She nods and turns away while Deku's eyes linger on the two. He catches Nozomi's eye before they return to focusing on their current action. What happened at USJ was my fault. Madam, I had trouble sleeping that night because he sniffles and whimpers. They almost died. I know, Aoyama, I know, but don't worry, I can help you out. How? All for One is a very bad man. Madam, he's a monster. I'm aware, and I can't promise your family's safety 100%, but I'm going to do my best. Okay, I'll think of something. But I wanted to let you know that I knew of your secret because I want you to stop isolating yourself from your classmate. She pulls away slightly and cups his cheek gently. They're all wonderful people. They'll be your greatest allies and friends. But what if they find out? They'll hate me. They won't. Trust me. She reassures you. Tell them when you want them to know, however, even though they will be mad at you, they'll understand the circumstances. For now, try being yourself, okay? Let them know some of the real Yuga Aoyama, not the haughty facade you put on. She gives him a friendly smile as she wipes away his tears. After a moment, he smiles at her. Thank you so much. You're welcome. They hug again, allowing her to caress his hair to comfort him. A minute passes before he pulls away. He wipes away his tears as he walks back into the gym. Hey, are you okay? Hagakure asks while holding a bottle of water. Yeah, you're crying really bad, Ajiro points out. Hagakure hands Aoyama the water, which he takes. I'm okay, I was just telling Madame Fujiki a private matter that's been bothering me for a long time. They look at him in concern while he looks at Nozomi by the doorway. Smiling at him, Aoyama drinks a large gulp of water before grinning at Hagakure and Ajiro. Did you two come up with any routines? I want to try them out. What? Hagakure probably had wide eyes from how surprised her tone was. You want to spend time with us? Yes. Hagakure squeals as she suddenly hugs Aoyama. Nozomi laughs at the sight while Hagakure rambles about the times she's asked Aoyama to hang out. Okay, who's next? Akari looks over at Nozomi before looking at the TV put in the room. She gasps loudly, making everyone else stop what they were doing. What? Nozomi asks. Akari quickly grabs the remote and heightens the volume. This program for breaking news. The number 2 pro hero, Endeavor, has filed for divorce from his wife. What? Nozomi walks closer while a few students glance at the equally wide-eyed Shoto. Endeavor has been married to his wife, Rei Todoroki, for over 20 years, where they had 4 children together. However, after a decade of his wife being in a private mental institution due to mental health issues, it seems the hero has decided to cut ties with his wife. We have reached out to his representatives to discover the reason, but they haven't gotten back to us as of right now. He's visiting his now ex-wife in the institution to discuss the terms. Oh my god, Akari mumbles before she frowns at Shoto. I'm so sorry. Yeah, dude, I can't believe this is how you find out. Siro whispers before offering, hey, if you ever want to talk about how you feel. I'm fine, Shoto states before glancing at Nozomi. Just didn't expect this. They never divorced though, she mumbles. What? Shoto looks over. Even after so much. This didn't happen at all, she continues while she stares at the TV. Most of the students look at her confused. What are you talking about, Ms. Fujiki? Hagakure asks. She has no quirk, but she somehow had dreams that predicted the future, including the USJ incident and everything that went down in the sports festival. She also had dreams about personal stuff we all experience or will eventually experience, Bakugo quickly explains. While they look at Nozomi in shock or with interest, she looks at Shoto with wide eyes. They never divorced in all of my dreams. Despite how rough their marriage is, I never had one of them divorcing, so this is new to me. Her heart was racing like never before. For once, I don't know what the consequences are. So let me get this straight. Kiri recounts when you were a kid. You've had a lot of dreams about us, our experiences, and what we'll eventually experience. Then when these dreams just stopped, you decided that your life goal was to help us avoid the tragedies you've foreseen. Pretty much. After telling the dream story for the whateverth time, Class 1 was looking at Nozomi with a lot more interest than usual. Standing by Nozomi's side, Akari laughs. You all took it pretty well, honestly. You took it better than Rumi and I did back in the day. We thought she was crazy. And you never thought of telling us what would happen at USJ. Momo raises an eyebrow. Nozomi facepalms and groans as if she's heard this before. Imagine how I would have looked to you and your teachers. You step off the bus, ready to train. But oh look, some woman that you've never met before is telling you to not go inside because a bunch of villains, some warp guy, a freaky man with hands, and a monster is going to attack you. You all would have thought I was crazy and your teachers would have just kicked me out. But you have your dream journal. You could have showed them the experiences that no one else would have known. Akari says in a tone as if she's said it before. Well, geez, I guess I can. But there's the chance that you all would have thought I was a villain or a crazy stalker or someone. She looks at Bakugo would have thought I was pulling stuff out of my behind and straight up destroy my dream journal. Hey, I wouldn't have. He pauses and looks away with a huff. Actually, I would do that. Someone already complained about you not stopping the USJ incident. Huh, Denki points out. Akari nods as she giggles. Yeah, Rumi, she was so mad at Nozomi. No matter how many times we explained it, she let it go after she saw that Eraserhead would be okay like Nozomi said he would. The students seemed ready to ask some questions, only for the door to slam open. Hello, students. I am back. All Might exclaims. Hawks shuffles into the room and waves. Surprise, I'm here too. The students and Akari gawk at them while Nozomi immediately smiles. All Might, Hawks, what an unexpected but welcome visit. Nozomi greets. We just happened to arrive at the same time to see what this agency is all about and such. Hawks explains before looking at the students. Oh, we didn't interrupt anything, were we? I was just giving them a pep talk. Oh geez, I'm not done talking to each of them. Deku saves her by saying, oh, we don't mind, you can continue doing that some other time. Yeah, besides, I'm getting kind of hungry from our workout, Kiri admits. Oh right, everyone, go to the 5th floor because that's where my helpers, cooks, and I will be cooking while everyone else waits, ordered Nozomi before she looks at the two heroes. You two are also getting meals. They immediately shake their heads. We don't mean to impose on your hospitality, Ms. Fujiki, All Might replies. I insist. Come on, let's get going. The 5th floor was a wide open space with a bunch of tables and chairs. There were also a couple of vending machines against a wall on one side. There were the restrooms and the kitchen, which had a couple of cooks inside on the other. There was an infirmary. Hawks raises an eyebrow at Nozomi. What? Accidents can happen while cooking, and I like being convenient. She and her designated helpers immediately go to the kitchen while the others sit down to Akari's chagrin. She was sitting with All Might and Hawks. Her eyes linger on Nozomi through the kitchen doorway, who is presumably telling everyone there what they'll make. Do you still have that picket sign? Well, signed. All Might suddenly asks with a chuckle. Akari turns to him before it sets in that she was sitting next to him. A blush rises to her face as she stammers. Yeah, I keep it under my desk for good luck. She hums for a moment before taking out a pen and paper from her pocket. Nozomi mentioned that she also wanted your autograph for a new friend she made, who all she said was a big fan of you. Allow me to satisfy that fan's wish. As he leaves his autograph on the paper, Hawks raises an eyebrow. Oh yeah, Fujiki is a fan of Endeavor? Huh, she would want his autograph, but that big guy doesn't give any out unfortunately. That reminds me. All Might hands Akari the paper and pen back before looking at Hawks. Did he say anything about wanting a divorce? Nope, I'm just as surprised as everyone else. A reporter didn't even believe me just because I work side by side with Endeavor, but he rarely tells me anything. After a moment, Hawks suddenly looks at Akari. Hey, you don't look like the type to tell reporters private stuff, but I just want to make sure. Hawks, relax. The only person she would talk to about the so-called private stuff would be her friends. He pats Akari's back, which makes her whimper while her face becomes redder. She glances at Hawks, who smirks at her before looking down. Did I hurt you, Ms.? I'm sorry, what's your name? All Might asks. She still doesn't look up as she quietly replies. It's Akari Watanabe. What a nice name for a nice little lady such as yourself, All Might compliments. Akari abruptly stands up and hurries to the elevator. All Might stares at this before looking at the amused Hawks and asking, did I say anything wrong? Nah, you just made her flustered, which was pretty cute. Meals are done, Nozomi calls out with a sing-songy voice. She, her cooks, and helpers walk out of the kitchen with trays full of plates of stir-fried eggplant and seitan with garlic and tomatoes. 57 grams of protein in each serving. 57. A few students exclaim. Of course, it's okay if you don't finish it, just eat as much as you can, okay? I'm fine with leftovers. She walks over to the heroes and places their plates in front of them. Where's Akari? She left cause number 1 here, complimented her name. Hawks explains while his wings flap a bit as he eyes the meal. All Might chuckles and smiles nervously. I didn't mean anything bad. Oh, it's fine. She's just not used to talking to heroes. She's kind of shy when meeting new people. But she's a great friend now. Please enjoy your meals. She turns and walks away. Sensing both heroes eyeing her, she looks back at them. Seeing All Might now focusing on his plate while Hawks was still staring at her, she couldn't tell what he was thinking. but he had a coy smile despite being some distance away. She could tell he was eyeing her body, rolling her eyes. She continues to walk and goes into the elevator, where she goes to the 7th floor while she's there to put away her notebook. Akari was on the 1st floor, talking to the employee behind the front desk, an older woman named Nijima, and I just sort of walked out and that's it. Well, I don't know what to tell you, Watanabe, but I don't think he's going to see you as a weirdo for how you acted. Akari sighs and covers her face with a slight groan. Sorry for bothering you about this. It's okay, it's better than sitting behind a desk, you know? The two chuckle as the front door opens. Nijima looks behind Akari, and her eyes widen. Akari sets her hands by her sides and turns around, ready to say some formal greeting, only for her jaw to drop. Is Nozomi Fujiki here? Akari quickly composes herself and smiles. Yes, she is. Let me just see if she's in her office. She turns around and, before she could ask, was handed the work phone. Nijima dials Nozomi's work number, and it only takes a few rings for her to answer. Good afternoon, what's the situation? Nozomi asks. Nazar, Miss Fujiki, it's important. Miss Fujiki, well shit, it must be Impo. Endeavor wants to talk to you. Akari covers her mouth to stop herself from laughing when she hears Nozomi yelp. Worry fills her gaze when she hears a thump, assuming Nozomi had fell from shock. After a moment, she hears Nozomi's excited voice squeal, send him up right now. Don't forget to make tea too. Akari hands Nijima her work phone before turning around and giving a polite smile to the number 2 hero. She's ready to see you, please, follow me. As she leads Endeavor to the elevator, Nozomi was currently squealing and jumping around her office. Oh my god, he's actually coming. Her excitement immediately becomes worry and genuine fear. Oh my god, he's actually coming, I'm absolutely fucked. Okay, get it together. Nozomi takes a deep breath, takes one look at the elevator, and heads to the window to check her reflection. Do I look good? Hair is brushed, blazer is smooth, pencil skirt isn't wrinkled, pantyhose is also good, heels are great. I should have put on a bit more makeup this morning. No way. He'll probably think of me as shallow if I did. I should really not worry too much because he's not here for my looks. She goes to her mini fridge and checks a small container inside. Is it expired? Okay, not expired at all. I'm safe in that department too. As soon as she hears the elevator ding, she practically jumps to her chair and swerves it to face the window. She's right inside. I'll be making tea for you too, she hears Akari say. Oh goodness, oh fuck, can I jump out the window before he sees how sweaty I am? I should have put on more perfume this morning. The bastard knocks on the door. Nozomi takes a moment to steady herself before saying, come in. She swerves her chair around, and her eyes widen. There he was. Akari gives Nozomi an encouraging smile and closes the door, but Nozomi was barely paying attention. She watches him approach her slowly, keeping his blue eyes on her and her alone. Welcome. FRK, stop stuttering. Welcome to my agency. Nozomi stands up, walks around her desk, and gives a low bow to him. It's very nice to meet you, sir. You can call me Endeavor, Miss Fujiki. Nozomi would be lying if she said that her knees didn't quake at his words. She stands up straight. Oh my goodness gracious, back the fuck up. He's a head taller than me, good. Lord, he smells nice too. Relax. Please sit down. She turns and goes back to her seat, trying to keep a smile on her face as to not start screaming like an idiot. Endeavor sits in front of her, looking down at her with a stern expression. Your face is red, he points out. FRK me except do it with a chainsaw, sir. Is it? I'm really sorry. The thermostat must be up. He opens his mouth to say something else, only for the door to open. Akari walks towards them, holding 2 cups. She sets them on the desk and bows. Here's the tea you requested earlier, Miss Fujiki. Nozomi is put at ease at the amusing sight of Akari being professional for the sake of helping her look good in front of Endeavor. Thank you, Ms. Watanabe. May you also turn the thermostat down? It's warm in here. Of course, ma'am. As Akari walks away, she gives Nozomi a thumbs up before leaving the office and closing the door while the air conditioning turns on. Nozomi looks back at Endeavor, who is focusing on her plush of him. Oh, how long have you been a fan of mine? He asks while picking up his cup of tea. Nozomi takes a sip of her own tea before answering, my entire life. A look of amusement rises to his face at this, making her face redder. I am serious, Sir Endeavor. I was only 4 years old when I ran away from my parents, picked up a plush of you, and begged my parents to buy it. Oh, so you just took one look at me and became a fan. What the fuck was up with that? Oh, you little shit. Pretty much. He nods before taking a sip of the tea. Nozomi eyes him as he sets the cup down. Ginseng, you have good taste. Thank you, Endeavor. She couldn't help but smile at his words while he reached into his pocket. The smile instantly fades when he puts a folded, slightly wrinkled paper on her desk. Care to explain this? Well, time to jump out the window. Just really. For once, Nozomi was at a loss for words as she couldn't even look at him after a moment of painful silence. He speaks. So did you really make Shoto a new costume? And here it is, the real reason he came over. Yes, he's doing well in it during my lessons. How far has he improved? I haven't done much yet, but I know he's doing well. You said in your letter that you were improving his skills. I can assure you that I'm doing everything I can to do so. We just haven't done any more lessons in the simulation for a while since I've been asking the students what they want to improve. It's not just your son I'm training. For a moment, he glares down at her, making her scared and annoyed, mostly the latter. Tomorrow, I want to see one of your lessons. If I see that you're not improving his skills whatsoever and serve as nothing but a distraction, I will make him intern with me from now on. Ignoring her heart beating excessively, she forces a smile and says, I understand. She takes a gulp of tea before standing up. I have a gift prepared for you, Endeavor. A gift? He raises an eyebrow, clearly not expecting this. With a grin, she goes to her mini fridge and takes out the container. She sits back down and hands it to him. It's Kuzumachi. I know you're fond of these, so I went and bought a few for you. He stares at her with an unreadable expression before he takes the container. Their fingers graze against each other momentarily, allowing her to feel his warmth. He opens it and, to her surprise, hands her one. Take it. What the actual fuck? Slowly but tentatively, she does what he says. For a second, she could see a smile tug at the corner of his lips, but it goes away quickly, unsure of what else to do. She eats the bit of Kuzumachi given to her. She chews slowly, savoring the flavor of his favorite food. Her face wasn't as red as before, but there was still a bit of red on her cheeks. Can this beach stop staring at me while I eat? Wait, why is he getting closer? What are you going to do with your hand, sir? Nozomi tenses up and becomes still as his thumb brushes against her bottom lip. You had a bit of Kuzumachi there, he claims while his voice was suspiciously becoming raspy. Nozomi didn't believe that because the Kuzumachi is cold, so she would have felt it. His hand is grazing her cheek now while his thumb moves away from her lip. She suddenly gets a very sinking feeling within the pit of her stomach as the Kuzumachi's sweetness melts in her mouth. Wait, the divorce that can't be. Nozomi nudges his hand away and finishes the tea in her cup. Ignoring the burning of her throat, she stands up. That was nice. I hope you enjoy it, Endeavor, she quickly says as she rubs her aching throat. I made the students a meal, which they should be finishing up right now. We can go to the first floor to see them out. She quickly walks past him as he stands up when she passes Akari sitting at her desk. Akari had wide eyes since she saw the entire interaction through a window. The two put on formal smiles as Akari waves and Nozomi steps into the elevator with Endeavor. As soon as the elevator doors close, Nozomi felt like screaming. She glances at Endeavor, which was a mistake because he was staring at her already. No way, no, not possible. Universe. Every time I said that I would date him, I didn't mean before his epiphany. There has to be another reason for the divorce, right? Right. She heads out of the elevator as soon as it stops on the first floor. Relief fills her mind from seeing the students, All Might, and Hawks. And then I said Hawks looks over and grins. Oh hey, look who showed up. What's up with your cheeks, Fujiki? Nozomi glares at him before she says, it's warm in here. But it's the right temperature, All Might corrects before Hawks jabs him with his elbow. I mean, yes, you're right. Hopefully the AC does the trick. Hawks gives Nozomi a quick wink before turning away. All right, kids, tomorrow is going to be an important day since Endeavor is going to be watching, so you all better do your best. I will watch as well, All Might states proudly. Praise the universe, I forgive you. Ignoring the glare Endeavor was giving to All Might, she walks closer to the students. Did you all enjoy your meals? They all nod while giving a mix of yes, it was really great, and thank you to her and everyone else's surprise. Shoto suddenly puts his arms around her. He didn't do anything bad to you, did he? He whispers. She hugs back and quietly answers, no, but he's being weird. Be sure to tell me how your siblings are feeling with the divorce. Okay. Check that they're all right. He hums in response before pulling away. I hope you cook us more meals, Miss Fujiki. You cook very well. I will, and thank you. Get home safely. She then waves goodbye to the students as they walk out of the agency. She turns around, seeing the top 3 heroes looking at her. What? We hadn't expected any of them to hug you, let alone Endeavor's son, All Might says, prompting Hawks to nod. Noticing Endeavor's look of suspicion, she immediately looks at Hawks. Oh, well, I'm just good with kids anyways. Hawks, are you free tonight? Are you asking me out? He teases while worry crosses his face. To hang out? Yes, because I want some teriyaki. I hope you two have a good night. I hope the same for you, Ms. Fujiki. Have fun. All Might smiles at her. Hawks immediately puts his arm around Nozomi and walks out of the agency with her. As soon as they leave, All Might looks at Endeavor. So, I'm not talking to you about my divorce. All Might laughs at this while Endeavor eyes Nozomi through the large windows talking to Hawks. I wasn't going to ask about that. All Might puts his hand on Endeavor's shoulder, redirecting his attention, with Endeavor finally looking away. Hawks picks Nozomi up and flies away. As soon as they were outside the agency, Hawks grins at Nozomi. What were you two talking about? Can we talk after we get teriyaki? Nozomi insists. He looks over, noticing All Might distracting Endeavor. Us blondes always got a lady covered up. We go. He picks her up bridal style and flies up into the sky. She screams, wraps her arms around him, and puts her face against the side of his neck. Where to, princess? Whichever you like and make it quick. Got it. She holds onto him tightly as he flies through the sky. After a minute, Nozomi feels him landing as soon as she's back on her feet. She looks up to see that they were in front of a restaurant. Hawks nudges her inside, where they're immediately stared at. Table for two, please, he tells a waiter while putting his arm around Nozomi. Oh, is it a date, winged hero? The waiter asks loudly, making more people turn to look. If I could, I would kick you in the PP, waiter. Nozomi sighs and shrugs his arm off before clarifying, it is no date. This is barely our first time hanging out. Yeah, it's our first time hanging out. We'd like privacy, Hawks says with an amused grin growing on his face. Right, my apologies. You two, the waiter bows, please, follow me. Shall we? Hawks holds out his arm. Nozomi wanted to roll her eyes at him, but at the same time, she still wanted to give him that therapy session. With another sigh, she links her arm with his, making him smile. The two follow the waiter to the back of the restaurant to a booth that was mostly out of sight from the rest of the restaurant. The two sit side by side. Where one of his wings was placed behind her, she didn't notice a feather sneaking into her pocket. What would you like to drink? The waiter asks. Wine, bring 2 glasses, Hawks orders. No, I don't want wine. I would like. She looks at the menu before ordering. Sparkling cider, please. Boo, Hawks says, forget the wine. I also want cider. Can we also get teriyaki? Of course, Hawks. As soon as the waiter was far enough away, Nozomi glares at him. Will you stop making people think that we're dating? He laughs loudly and ruffles her hair. Sorry, kid, I can't help myself. You just look cute when you get mad. Cute. She glares at him harder as a blush rises to her cheeks again. He smirks and reiterates, yeah, cute. Oh yeah, how many girls have you said that to? His smirk falters for a moment before he leans back and shrugs, too many to count. She crosses her arms and raises an eyebrow at him. He glances at her and chuckles. Geez, you're looking at me like how Rumi does when I do something dumb. She smiles and loosens her arms while her blush fades. She does the same for Akari and I. She's typically the one that keeps us in line. He smiles as well before sitting up straight. So how's Endeavor? Did he seem to be in a bad mood while you were talking about whatever? He asks with concern in his voice. Her expression softens more before she responds. No, he was just being weird. Weird how? The blush returns while she grazes her bottom lip with her thumb. She then explains what happened during their meeting and the fact that he stared at her in the elevator. Hawks stares at her intensely as she does so. He turns away for a moment before he laughs. Whoa, he definitely loves you. What? Her jaw drops as her face becomes red. He chuckles before he continues. Yeah, kid. He's certainly interested in you ever since I delivered that letter a few days ago. He's been asking me how much I knew about you. I've told him all the things Rumi told me. You're quirkless, you're smart, you're the motherly kind of nice, blah blah blah. He seems to have a moment of clarity as the waiter returns with their teriyaki dishes and sparkling cider. As soon as the waiter leaves, Hawks whistles lowly. That explains recent events. Oh shit, did he divorce his wife in order to date you? That's, to her surprise, he was frowning as he stares down at the large plate of teriyaki. Are you okay? She puts a hand on his arm. He clears his throat and smiles. Yeah, I'm fine. Let's enjoy this teriyaki. Okay. It's the best in the city. He's probably upset because of his past. The least I could do is make him feel better. The more he likes me, the less likely I'll get hurt. She holds up her glass of sparkling cider and gives a kind smile. So tell me how you met Rumi. She's already told me, but I like hearing both sides of situations. His smile grows. He picks up his glass and starts. Well, it happened a few years back when an important mission across the country came up. What do you mean you couldn't do it? Hawks stares at the floor of the office while Madam President sits behind her desk. I'm sorry, boss, I got distracted. Are you getting attached to her? Of course not. It's just. He takes a deep breath. I think the reason for Endeavor's divorce is her. He seems interested in her. So, it doesn't matter if he's interested in her or not, so why do you hesitate? Hawks continues to stare at the floor. Madam President stands up and walks closer to him. Is it because of your friendship with Maruko? Your adoration for Endeavor? Or have you actually gotten attached to her? He looks at her stern expression before sighing. I suppose it's all three. You barely met her a few days ago. Why would you get attached so easily? She chastises. He looks down again, making her sigh. Next time you spend time together, don't hesitate to give her the poison. The sooner she can get out of our hair, the better. Or don't you think you're being paranoid, boss lady? I'm not. Madam insists while raising her voice. That woman certainly knows more than what she lets on, but you're right. He sighs in relief, only for her to put her hands on his shoulders. You're going to find me proof that she does no more than she shows. Hawks, no matter what happens, you must find something to prove me right. It's then and only then that you will poison her. Does that satisfy you? Hawks nods stiffly, making her smile. Good, go get some rest. He nods again before walking out of her office. He walks down the empty hallway of the Hero Public Safety Commission with a mixed expression. Hawks, can you hear me? He stops in the middle of the hallway, hearing Nozomi's voice. Did you leave this feather for my protection? You're a kind man, a good man, in fact. His wings flap a bit as he smiles. Her voice is soothing when in a whisper. You're doing a wonderful job, Hawks. I mean it, you're going to be a great friend. I hope we can hang out again when you have free time. Yeah, of course, he mumbles as if she could hear him. All of a sudden, he shudders as he feels warmth wash over him. He leans against a wall as his breath gets stuck in his throat. I tried to be as gentle as possible. I hope you don't mind. And I really hope you're not in front of someone else because it'd be embarrassing. Both hands cover his mouth to muffle a whimper as he shudders again. Was she caressing the feather? She was so gentle, it was. I know I already said it earlier, but I hope you sleep well, Hawks. Good night. He crouches down, muffling a cry far away in her agency bedroom. Nozomi eyes the feather pressing against her hand after she whispered to it. It was as if it, by extension Hawks, was wanting to be closer to her. With a small smile, she carefully and gently runs her finger along the feather again before setting it on her nightstand. She then lays down on her bed and sighs. Divorce feathers lessons. Didn't I barely get this agency last week? More than a week ago. Shit won't get crazier than all of this, right? She mumbles to herself. Nozomi takes a deep breath before shutting her eyes, hoping to get some sleep despite her rushing thoughts. On the top floor of the agency, Nozomi could faintly hear an alarm going off. It turns off, allowing blissful silence to fill the air again. Then her door slams open. Wake up, sleepyhead, Rumi exclaims before jumping onto Nozomi. She yelps, adrenaline filling her body as she stares up at the grinning rabbit hero. Ru, what the hell? The bird was telling me about how you were whispering shit to him last night. Rumi raises an eyebrow as a teasing expression rises to her face. Are you finally giving interest to other heroes? Don't act like I was telling him some dirty shit or something. Yeah, I know, just messing with you. As soon as Rumi rolls off of Nozomi, Akari promptly jumps onto her next. Oof, I'm awake. Nozomi squeals. Sorry, it just looked fun when Ru did it. Akari rolls off of her next, so Nozomi was now between her friends. So the divorced Rumi perks her head up with her hand. What are we thinking? Akari holds her head up as she says what Nozomi was thinking. He did it to get with Nozomi because he was acting weird yesterday. Rumi gets a horrified expression at this. Ugh, isn't he old enough to be your dad? For your information, Nozomi looks at Rumi sternly. There's an 18-year age difference between us, so just barely. Plus, I'm past the age of 25, so my frontal lobe is already developed. Alright then, wise gal. What does your developed frontal lobe say? Nozomi turns herself around and screams into her pillow. Rumi scoffs. Yeah, that's what I thought. Come on, let's make breakfast. What am I going to do? I mean, seriously, if he ever asks me out, I won't know what to say. Is he going to ask me out? Would he expect me to do it first? Hatsum just nods along with Nozomi's venting as she continues to work on the gadget in her hands. Nah, he would go all out in asking me out, or maybe he intends on embarrassing me. Nozomi rambles. Cool, Ms. Fujiki, can you hand me the... Nozomi immediately gives Hatsum a screwdriver, who uses it to tighten a screw. Alright, the gift to Eraserhead is done. Hatsum wipes sweat off her forehead before she turns around. She expected Nozomi to be proud, but she was still pacing instead. Fujiki, you have to stop worrying about that. How can I? Nozomi stops walking and shakes her hands. If he doesn't like my lesson, I'm toast. I'm a failure. Before Hatsum could say anything, Rumi opens the door. Yo, Endeavor, All Might, and Eraserhead are downstairs. Blarg. Nozomi shakes her hands harder. I'm not ready. Well, you gotta be, because the students are down there too. When Nozomi continues to panic, Rumi and Hatsum look at each other before Rumi gestures to the plush on Nozomi's desk. Hatsum goes over, grabs it, and tosses it to the panicking CEO. Nozomi grabs it and hugs it tightly. Taking a deep breath, Rumi smiles at Hatsum before she puts an arm around Nozomi and walks with her out of her office. Hatsum places the finished gadgets into a bag before following them. They head down to the first floor, where the foyer was empty. Where are they? Rumi looks around. Finally, some use for the announcements room. Nozomi gestures to double doors on the other side of the room. The three enter, seeing a large room with chairs facing a stage where a presentation was projected onto the wall. Akari stands on the stage by a laptop with the students sitting on one side and the three heroes on the other. Hatsum hands Nozomi the bag before sitting with one while Rumi sits next to Aizawa as Nozomi walks onto the stage. She hears a few chuckles from the students. She looks down and realizes that she was holding the Endeavor plush like a baby. She turns to the heroes, seeing amusement from All Might, disinterest from Aizawa, second-hand embarrassment from Rumi, and something unreadable from the man himself. Instead of letting the embarrassment get to her, she holds it closer and states, "Don't judge, he's a great source of comfort for me." Nozomi could see Endeavor smirking from the corner of her eye. She clears her throat and smiles widely. Alright, so here's the plan for today. She looks at the heroes. First of all, welcome to the agency. I hope you're just as excited as I am to see the students in action. I also hope that you will be satisfied with the way I train them. She hands the bag to Akari, who gets off the stage and approaches the heroes. Eraserhead, I know we sort of started off on the wrong foot, so I hope this makes up for it. Akari hands Aizawa a pair of goggles that looked similar to the one he typically wears. I added something to keep moisture in that way. Your eyes won't dry out. You can thank Ms. Watanabe for coming up with the idea. Thank you, Aizawa immediately says. Akari looks away in an attempt to hide her blush before she takes a step to the right. Endeavor, to help you with your quirk, Hatsum and I created some small devices to help you regulate your temperature. Just attach them to your wrists, chest, and thighs. Akari places the bag on Endeavor's lap, gives a bow, and walks away. And don't worry, All Might, you also have a gift. However, I'll give it to you after the lesson. She grins at him, prompting him to give a thumbs up after noting the way Endeavor was tightly holding the bag. Now, Nozomi glances at Akari, who returns to the stage. The presentation behind them shows drawn chibi versions of the students, making many of them to giggle. Cute, aren't they? Anywho, this is the plan. The chibis move around as she explains. The class will be separated into 4 teams with Deku, Bakugo, Todoroki, and Yaoyorozu as the leaders. The lesson today is more of a game to test your speed, strength, agility, intellect, and the ability to function under pressure. You all will have to work together to go through an obstacle course until you reach the end. If a team member doesn't cooperate, they'll leave the game if a team member gets knocked out. And yes, there are things that can knock you out in the course or critically hurt. They'll leave the game as long as one member of the team makes it to the end, where a holograph of myself will be there to greet you. You and your team will win a prize. In the simulation control room later on, Nozomi places the Endeavor plush on the windowsill, facing the students inside the simulation. They were already in position with their teams. Deku was with Tsuyu, Eda, Uraraka, and Minta. Bakugo was with Kiri, Denki, Siro, and Mina. Shoto was with Aoyama, Hagakure, Koda, and Shoji, and Momo was with Jiru, Takoyami, Sato, and Ajiro. She smiles at the sight before turning around to face the heroes. Just to make this more fun, they're gonna have to do this to a song I chose to pump them up. Why a song? Aizawa questions. Because why not? Nozomi shrugs. I say it fits the kids perfectly. It's also a great workout song. You all are in for a treat. Trust me, Rumi states proudly. I'm excited to see it. Are you? All Might looks at Endeavor, who just grunts. Nozomi giggles before turning around. Akari and Rumi glance at each other while Nozomi starts the song with a smirk. The synth-heavy instrumental makes the room vibrate while they eye the student. All the underdogs in the world. A day may come when we lose. Everyone ready? Come on, don't let your workout from yesterday be for nothing. Nozomi speaks into the mic, but it is not today. The students tense up as the instrumental builds. Today, we fight. Go. The teams rush forward. The robots they faced in the sports festival appear in front of them, which they immediately attack. Just a warm-up before the good stuff, Nozomi explains while glancing at Aizawa. Rumi was nodding her head along with the beat before she started rapping along. Su, or Rawa extra, but still part of this world. She puts an arm around Nozomi, who decided to do the same. Extra plus ordinary. Nozomi then puts an arm around Akari, who quietly joins in. Yoru Eru Kodomo. So what? The 3 say in unison. Kyowa wa Tamaru na Mata. A few students were even mumbling along to the song as they fought off the robots behind the girls. All Might was nodding his head along. Aizawa had an incredulous look, and Endeavor was focusing on his son. Shoto freezes off a robot's legs before he and his team rush forward. Hey, Shoto, Todoroki team is in first place now. Nozomi calls out, catch up, everyone. Yeah, icy hot, get slower. Bakugo calls out before he catches up. Tobnai Nara Hosher. Rumi yells, today we will survive. Akari sings, Hosher Nakia Aryuk. Today we will survive. Aizawa's expression softens when he sees that the kids were laughing from Akari and Rumi singing. Bakugo, who had a scowl when catching up with Shoto during the sports festival, had a wide grin. He looks at Nozomi, who clicks a button. A downward slope of spikes form a few feet away right as the pre-chorus ends. Mary, Ju, Shajun, Hasja. The students pick each other up, helping one another to get across the spikes. Aizawa mumbles, now that's teamwork. All Might commemorates while clapping. Nozomi couldn't help but grab the mic as she sings along. Kamawazu Yer hands up. A few students raise their hands. Wakaru Yatsura hands up. More raise their hands. Shinjuru Nara hands up. At the bottom of the hill, the students set each other down and continue running with their hands up. Many of them were laughing. They're training but having fun, I say. This is a good way to keep their spirits up, All Might points out. Yes, but just fighting robots and working together isn't always going to happen in the real world, Aizawa adds. You're lucky I have this planned. Nozomi grins. A few employees flip a switch and presses a few buttons, turning the simulation dark and summoning a forest around the kids. Too hot, Sekuo Dublin. Too hot, Chato Tumblin. Shoto lights a flame in his left hand. Momo makes a lantern, and Bakugo sparks a light with small explosions. Deku and his team hold onto each other with Deku eyeing the lights given off by the other teams. You guys do remember that this is a race, right? Rumi reminds before going back to rapping along with Akari. The students look at each other before the teams with light run ahead. Hey, Uraraka calls out. I got it, ribbit. Suyu taps a button on the side of her mask before explaining. Night vision. They hear a few screams ahead of them. We'll need it, Ada. Can you carry Asui and Minta? Call Mitsu. She reminds him as she's placed on Ada's back while Minta hangs off her shoulders. No touchy or you're not getting the prize. Minta, Nozomi chastises, and Midoriya. Don't forget that you can use your quirk in her legs. My legs. Deku looks down as if having a revelation. Did no one tell him it can go there? Nozomi mumbles while All Might coughs. Deku picks Uraraka up before he and his team start to run. Left. Suyu calls out. They go to the right, avoiding a warp. That explains the screaming. They're getting sucked into warps. She quickly explains. Where do they get sent to? Deku questions. Their answer was a scream behind them, a thud, then a groan. Hey, Rumi and Akari sings. Kamawazu, your hands up. Nozomi turns around and asks the heroes, what do you think? I think you're a good teacher, Fujiki, All Might says. Or I still need to observe more, Aizawa adds. You. She looks at Endeavor. He stares down at her with an unreadable expression. She just nods, looks back through the window, and flips the switch again as the moon turns into the sun. Deku, Bakugo, Shoto, and Momo run out of the forest. They see a hologram of Nozomi on top of a hill, only for something to form at the bottom. The Namu again. Bakugo groans. Hey, it's good practice, Nozomi rationalizes. What do you think you're doing? Aizawa looks at Nozomi incredulously. Break it up, break it up. Rumi and Akari sings before Rumi grabs the mic seriously. You kids have to break that thing apart. But we had the help from the others the first time we did this, Deku says. As Aizawa stares at Nozomi, she speaks into the mic. You're going to face more of those things. You may not have the entire class with you when that happens, so when it does. Rumi and Akari stand by her side as they scream along with the song, Subaru na Butsukurinda. Don't give up, attack. The four look at one another before they scream and charge at the Namu. That's not today. Oh. Bakugo blasts the Namu, only for it to smack him to the side. Shoto freezes its legs, prompting Deku to rush in. However, the Namu grabs his arms and goes to throw him, only for Momo to slice its arms off with a chainsaw. Rumi laughs out of shock. Where'd she added it to her schematics? Nozomi proudly says before speaking into the mic. Remember, it's the head. Weaken it, then burn it. Momo smacks the Namu with said chainsaw before pulling a pistol out of her chest and shooting it. The bullet pierces its eye, making it roar. Hey, not today. Detroit smash. Deku calls out, making All Might smile proudly. Hey, not today. Eat this. Bakugo pulls his clip and blasts the Namu back, making Aizawa nod. Hey, not today. Momo shoots it a few more times before looking at Shoto and screaming, now. Ju, Xiaojun, Hascha. Shoto grins as he blasts the Namu's head off with his flames, making Endeavor smile. As the Namu falls, the four run up the hill, reaching a simulation of Nozomi. Congratulations, you made it to the end, the holograph says while the real Nozomi cheers. The simulation turns off, leaving the students in the white room. Who won? Bakugo asks. All of you did, since you reached the finish line at the same time. Nozomi announces the rules did say that one member of the team has to reach the end for the whole team to win. Of course, now come on and get your refreshments. As the students walk out of the white room, Nozomi turns around and grins at the men. What do you think? Aizawa glances at his students before starting. Well, that was wonderful. Training and making it fun with the obstacle course, prizes, and just interacting with them in general. All Might praises before gesturing to Akari and Rumi, handing refreshments to the students or even taking care of their needs. You're certainly the kindest teacher I've met. As he pats her back, she looks at Endeavor. What about you? See Endeavor. Endeavor looks over at Shoto before looking at her. Are you going to accept me training your son? I'm considering it. He smirks at her, making her smile. I've never been so scared and so in love before. I need a therapist after all of this. All right, kids, change out of your costumes because it's time for late lunch, early dinner. Nozomi announces to the students helpers from yesterday. You're coming in again. We should make something nice to celebrate today. Can we have another party, Ms. Fujiki? Denki asks. Hold on, I want to taste her cooking again. Zero insists. Endeavor raises an eyebrow as he asks, you cook, Ms. Fujiki? You can thank my college days for that since I was far from home, Nozomi explains. May I watch? Nozomi, All Might, and Aizawa raise an eyebrow at him. Why would you want to watch that? Aizawa questions. It's a secret hobby of mine. Wow, I didn't expect that from you. All Might laughs. Rumi looks over and mouths, is that true? Nozomi looks at her and mouths back, it's bullshit. She looks back at Endeavor, who was looking at her again. I swear, if he looks at me like that again or if he says some sus shit, I will actually, I don't know, I'll literally drink water. Come on, let's go watch, cook. After the meal, we can party and you can take the snacks home. A few students cheer before rushing out of the control room. Nozomi is quick to rush out as well, hoping to avoid Endeavor's gaze for a while. However, he's too damn attractive. Universe, this isn't fair. Okay. She makes it to the kitchen. Gesturing the cooks to gather the ingredients, she leans against a wall, trying to think. Alright, how about I test him? Is he trying to make me crack under pressure, or is he trying to flirt? She opens a small closet in the kitchen, which had aprons, gloves, and hair ties. After putting her hair up in a bun, she puts on an apron that said "Kiss the Cook." It's a classic for a reason, but this should also be part of the test. When tying the apron around her waist, a blush rises to her cheeks as she realizes something. Just having the apron on accentuates my curves a bit. New. Can I put on something very baggy and call it a day? The last thing I want is for him to eye my cake. I don't want to test him anymore. Get me out of here. Where'd the chainsaw even come from? She hears an amazed Jiro ask. Nozomi looks through the door. Seeing the students arrive, her heart sinks as the helpers come into the kitchen and put on their aprons and gloves as Endeavor walks in. His presence immediately intimidates the cooks. Can someone get him a chair or something? Nozomi asks her cooks. He values the skill of cooking, so no pressure. One of them grabs a nearby stool and sets it down. The first thing that Endeavor does when he sits is to, you guessed it, look at Nozomi. Ignoring the way he was eyeing her in the apron, she smiles at her helpers and cooks. Alright, let's try making something sweet today, shall we? Sato, I think this is your specialty, right? Yes, ma'am, he says with a smile. How does tarts sound? They sound lovely. Let's get to work. Dough, filling, chop chop. She claps, prompting her cooks and helpers to start moving as the students excitedly talk about the obstacle course and the teachers discuss their opinion. Rumi and Akari were leaning against the wall and eyeing Endeavor. Why is he watching? Nozomi said that him watching people cook being a hobby was bullshit. Rumi mutters. I don't know, Ru. Yeah, I just realized that while Nozomi did tell us a few things about the more personal dreams she's had about some people, she didn't tell us anything about Endeavor. Probably because it's really bad. Rumi concludes as she turns to her friend. I remember a time she woke up upset after a dream, but she wouldn't tell me who it was about. Right, she always says who it was sooner or later. So how bad are the Endeavor dreams then? I wouldn't be surprised if it was something bad he did and not something bad that happened to him. Rumi glares at Endeavor while Akari hums. While Akari goes to the elevator and Rumi remains watch. The kitchen was busy while Nozomi was mixing the cream filling. She walks closer to Endeavor with a smile. Just to let you know, I know how to make more than desserts. Nozomi explains. I had a lot of time to practice my cooking skills, so I also taped some tips around the place for an easier experience. And yet you're making sweets. She holds back a huff as she further explains. They want to celebrate, so I'm giving it to them. Besides, it's not entirely unhealthy since I'll have fruits on the tarts even if it is a dessert. I promise to try to put something healthy in whatever I give the kids. After all, they're still growing, and I value the health of our future heroes. He slightly tilts his head to the side as he points out. Has anyone ever told you that you act like a mother? You're encouraging, attentive, loving. He's not gonna say it, is he? Yeah, I get that a lot. It's been that way since I was a kid. Heck, you saw me holding a plush of you like a baby. She laughs nervously. She stops herself and looks down at the cream she was mixing. It was thicker than she intended it to be. You're a young, beautiful woman. Fujiki, have you never considered becoming a mother? She stops mixing. Oh, you son of a bi. What? She laughs as if he was joking. No, I have never even thought about it. I have. I much prefer working. I do want to settle down though. Besides, I'm fine with just taking care of others. I want my own kids someday, preferably his kids. But that's not the point because he's not suitable papa material. He faces her entirely as he then states, I'm surprised you haven't found a lover yet. I have to check the tart progress. Gotta go. Nozomi hurries away while looking down. Trying to hide her red face, she drinks some water before continuing to prepare the tarts, now fully set on ignoring Endeavor. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. TV tropes would consider this a brick joke. That was a mistake. That was a mistake. That was a oh, we're done. We're done, Sato announces. He puts the small tarts onto trays before handing the trays to Nozomi and his classmates. To her chagrin, Endeavor was sitting by the door before she could say anything. He opens one door while Rumi holds open the other. Thank you, Nozomi says. As she walks past them, she and Rumi notice Endeavor's eyes wander low before Bakugo bumps into him. My bad. Number 2, he shrugs. You were in the way. Bakugo hurries away, avoiding Endeavor's glare. He then goes to Nozomi's side, leans over, and whispers, he was staring at you like a fucking creep the entire time. Ms. Fujiki, if he says or does something, you tell me right away. She glances at him with slight surprise as he walks ahead and gives away the tarts on his tray to his classmate. Oh right, he overheard what Shoto told Midoriya during the sports festival, but I'm glad he has my back. The tarts were equally divided among the people there. Nozomi places a few in a container before walking to the elevator. She gestures for All Might to follow her. which he does as she walks. She notices Bakugo talking to Deku and Shoto while Endeavor is looking at her. However, when he notices his son, Bakugo, and Deku looking at him, he turns away. Ru, be sure to tell the kids when the party is ready. Nozomi calls out. Got it. Rumi gives a thumbs up. With a smile, the elevator doors close, leaving Nozomi and All Might on their own. So what's this gift you wanted to show in secret? He looks down at her as he says this, which makes her grin awkwardly. She clears her throat before saying, wording, Mr. Might, you'll see in my office. Ms. Fujiki, I didn't expect you to be so forward. She chokes on air before she glares up at him. Only for him to laugh, she looks ahead with a pout on her face as they finally step off the elevator. You're the one who's being forward, she mutters as she opens the door to her office. I apologize, Ms. Fujiki. It's just amusing to see the reaction of a woman who knows more than she lets on. She stops walking and turns around slowly with a sheepish smile. Deku mentioned it, huh? He crosses his arms and shrugs before saying, about once twice he's worried but intrigued by it as for me. He grins before he coughs. His muscles shrink at once as he reduces to his weakened form. Nozomi immediately rushes forward and helps him steady himself. He looks at her worried expression before grinning again despite the BLD dripping out of his mouth. I'm much more intrigued. You are one of a kind in terms of heroism. I appreciate your words, Mr. Yagi, but let's talk more after you're 100% okay.